The royal capital of the reccaped kingdom is the heart of the nation, but every surface outside the main streets is covered in dull gray, the stone bricks riddled with cracks and the surrounding 1- and 2-story European-style buildings, carrying an air of antiquity. The closer you get to the center, the more orderly things become. The air is fresh, but the atmosphere tells me one thing unmistakably: this is another world. Metallic clashes of armor and weapons carried by adventurers ring out. Vendors cry their wares, and luxurious carriages weave through a crowd that proactively makes way for them. Many wear armor or mage robes, others wear bright or strange attire, giving a diverse and eclectic mix. For the past few days, the capital has been flooded with people, spirits naturally soaring, but mine is not. I wear a poor quality long-sleeve shirt and dusty gray pants, blending into the crowd unnoticed, my mood matching the color of my clothes. Aside from confusion, there is a lingering fear entwined in my heart. I transmigrated yesterday and have already basically figured out the situation. This is the Overlord world, specifically the other world where the Great Tomb of Nazarick will descend in the future. Others transmigrated into the real world of Overlord after grinding and spending money in Yggdrasil, descending invincibly or simply joining the Great Tomb, but I have transmigrated directly into the other world with nothing. The only thing giving me a slight peace of mind is the timing. There are still over 4 years before the Great Tomb descends. I know this because of the Imperial Tournament. Gazef, the future warrior captain, won the championship in this very tournament, and today is the peak duel between the future warrior captain Gazef and Nail Clipper Brian. The match has drawn every adventurer and commoner in the kingdom, which is why the streets are surging. Reading too many novels has its benefits. At least I can calm down quickly. I set this as year -4 of the new calendar, a naming I picked because the Great Tomb will eventually rule the world. As for understanding the language, there is a law of language translation in this other world, so that every race understands every other, as if everyone has eaten translation konjac. Reading the script, however, is another matter. I do not know why I transmigrated. I had been lying on my bed in my rented room and arrived here in a daze. A cliché way to do it. I am an orphan anyway, always alone, and even if I suddenly disappeared, no one would care. Fortunately, the duel between two commoners has flooded the city with adventurers, and my plain shorts are not particularly conspicuous next to those who dress provocatively or strangely. After confirming the situation, I find a shop and sell the only thing I brought to this world besides my clothes: the cloisonné gold pendant around my neck. I get 3 gold coins. That pendant was 2 months of salary, originally meant for a girlfriend I broke up with before I could give it to her, so I just kept wearing it. The currency runs at 169 copper coins to 13 silver coins to 1 gold coin. And above gold there are platinum, gem, and mithril coins. 3 gold for a 10-gram pendant is generous, but the cloisonné craftsmanship is the real prize for the shopkeeper, who could likely resell it to a noble for dozens or hundreds of times the profit. I know but cannot haggle. I spend 5 copper coins on cheap clothes, 1 silver on a short sword, and another 5 copper on a few loaves of rye bread, leaving 2 gold, 11 silver, and 3 copper. I curse inwardly that over 4 years is no comfort. Whether 4 years or tomorrow, the reccaped kingdom and I are destined for destruction once the Sorcerer Kingdom War comes, leaving 2 paths: die in the slaughter or survive as a subject of the Sorcerer Kingdom. Looking up at the magnificent ancient royal city on the hill, I feel increasingly panicked. Can my identity as a transmigrator really be hidden from the Great Tomb of Nazarick? From the anime's Great Tomb perspective, it was pure power fantasy, but from the human's perspective, it is infinite despair. I feel no belonging to either side. What I worry about is what happens to me once the Sorcerer Kingdom learns I am a transmigrator. The Bone King would not hesitate to eliminate anyone who could pose a threat to Nazarick, would likely subject me to neuronist's torture first, or simply use memory-searching magic to turn me into an idiot before killing me. I rub my cheeks hard, but the pain does not break the dream, because there is no dream. I find a corner of a shop wall and sit, not tired since my energy and physical strength far exceed my old sub-healthy state. My arms even show defined muscle lines. This body is my own, in a 16 or 17-year-old state even though I was 25 before transmigration, and the reason is my cheat, my talent. A status panel only I can see appears in my vision, divided into 2 parts. The attribute sheet reads Player Taejung, Karma 0 neutral, every basic stat at 13 points, or 1%, total 7%. The ability sheet shows Talent Player overall level 0 with no class, EXP 0 of 100. No class, no skill points, passive skill item box, active skill none. The talent itself describes player as granting player characteristics unobservable and unstealable, with no further detail. The fewer the words, the bigger the deal. As an old gamer, I can guess what player characteristics offer. Talent does not exist in the Overlord game. It is a special ability the human race of this other world possesses, with a roughly 1 in 200 birth rate but mostly weak abilities of no combat use. What player offers is the ability to gain levels, letting me escape racial and aptitude limits. But even at level 100, I still would not be a match for the Bone King and his divine class equipment, cash items, and world items, and the Bone King is not the only level 100 at Nazarick. All basic stats at 13 mean my pure numbers already surpass ordinary people of this world. But these are not just game numbers. They reflect my body's state, and I can feel a unique energy inside, which in this world's terms makes me a magic chanter. The percentages are the Overlord game calculation method. The Bone King's comprehensive value is 683.6%, plus an unknown, the unknown being because his mana value already broke the limit. The light novel mentions the average level 100 player has 1300 mana, and the Bone King has 1.5 times the maximum, the power of a whale. I researched Yggdrasil settings in my old life, and the average attribute values for all races are the same before equipment, since only equal upper limits maintain balance. In theory, every level adds 13 points across the board, reaching 1300 per stat at level 100. But in practice, different classes raise different attributes. Warrior classes raise health, physical attack, physical defense, agility, while caster classes raise mana, magical attack, magical defense, special. Among the playable races, demi-humans and xenomorph species have independent racial classes, with the Dragon Clan taking 6 racial classes through Ancient Dragon for 50 levels, leaving only 50 levels for job classes. Humans have no racial class problem, which is both disadvantage and advantage. All 100 levels go to job construction, letting humans catch up at the level cap. Even the Bone King only maxed mana and special. I glance at the flow of people, see no one paying attention, and take a piece of palm-sized rye bread from my pocket, which is actually pulled from the item box where I also stored my original clothes and gold coins. The spatial area is quite large but has an upper limit, otherwise items like infinite haversack would not exist in Yggdrasil. I bite the rye bread, which they call black bread, though it is dark brown, hard and coarse, but not bad. 1 copper for 2 pieces, so the price of basic supplies is not high. Last night's dinner was 1 piece and I am hungry. This hunger makes me realize player is just a talent. This is a truly real world, and I can die. Yggdrasil has an extremely high death penalty, dropping 5 levels instantly with account deletion if levels run out. The cost is reduced by resurrection magic or cash items like resurrection rings and staves, which I do not have, and I suspect player will not auto-resurrect me either, since this is a real world. I touch the short sword at my waist. Without item appraisal I cannot get data, but I know it is an ordinary weapon with no bonuses. I bought it not just for self-defense, but because I discovered touching it activates a class. The panel hums and informs me of contact with a weapon short sword, base class information warrior. Do I wish to take this class? I tell it no. This is not the first time the prompt appeared. It came up when I bought the sword. Touching a corresponding weapon for a period triggers related class prompts. In the weapon shop I touched a special shield, which triggered the middle tier class Black Guard, though I cannot take it without the prerequisite base class Guardian. I excitedly touched every weapon I could reach under the shopkeeper's murderous gaze, but only that shield triggered Blackguard. Everything else only triggered the base class warrior. The reason I have not taken any class yet is that level 100 is the cap, and since basic classes occupy 15 levels each, I need at least 1 warrior base and 1 caster base to avoid easy counters, which already takes 30 levels and leaves 70. The margin for error is too low. I cannot afford not to be prudent. I think about basic class choices without yet daring to decide. If not for the Great Tomb's threat, I would not need this caution. The only true threats in this world are the true Dragon Lords. If I wanted to reach level 100 fast, there is a shortcut, since Yggdrasil allows taking 100 classes for 100 levels, but such a level 100 would be very weak. Since arriving, I have been pondering how to narrow the gap with Nazarick, and it comes down to 2 points. First, use techniques unique to this other world that did not exist in Overlord, such as martial skills, the re-esthetized National Treasure Razor Edge, and the Origin Ring. Second, take a special class. Special classes are more powerful than high tier, all carry powerful skills or effects, and can even exceed super tier magic. Only with a special class do I feel I could face floor guardians one-on-one. A shadow blocks the sweltering sunlight. I look up at a young boy with short blonde hair and bangs that almost cover his eyes like a bowl cut, giving an impression of a soft personality. His clothes are ordinary, but the material is much better than my few copper outfit. Enfiaria, known in the future as a genius alchemist, one of the few humans even the Bone King holds in high regard. He asks softly and sincerely whether I am having some trouble. The question makes me pause, half-eaten rye bread, squatting in a corner, an aura of despondency. I am being pitied. I tell him expressionlessly no. A cold voice asks what Enfiaria is doing. The unremarkable little old lady walks over, only about 1.5 meters tall, pale hair under a green headscarf. Hearing the name confirms it is Enfiaria, and Enfiaria has a dual variant class Alchemist Genius and Pharmacist Genius unique to this world. The Genius tag allows more skills for the class, mastery beyond level range, and higher power. In a few years, he will use local herbs to create the legendary God's Blood, the low-tier red potion from the game, and Enfiaria also possesses the talent Unrestricted Item Use, letting him use any item including class mismatched scrolls, race-locked items, even a guild weapon. To a degree, Enfiaria could pose a threat to the Great Tomb. Enfiaria turns to Lizzie with an embarrassed expression and calls her grandmother. She tells him this is no place to play the Good Samaritan, that during the Imperial tournament he should be buying and collecting medicinal herbs. Enfiaria scratches his short blonde hair and whispers, "Yes, grandmother. I finally understand why this grandmother and grandson from E-Rantel appear in the royal capital." I keep a calm expression. Lizzie may look unremarkable, but she is the most famous pharmacist in E-Rantel and a genuine third-tier magic chanter, calculated by rank above 15, a powerful figure among humans. I absolutely cannot offend her. Her gaze falls on me, first on the short sword at my waist, then my slightly muscular arms, and she withdraws expressionlessly and tells Freya let's go. He agrees, then pauses and turns back, telling me I am probably here for the Gaze of Brian match, that arena seats are very expensive, and to take this water skin since eating rye bread without water is easy to choke on. This guy is a bit annoying. If I had not known his personality, sudden kindness from a stranger would have raised my guard. Growing up an orphan, I have never been fond of inexplicable kindness. I try to refuse, but Enfiaria has already pushed the water skin into my hands. The sudden movement makes my expression change, not from the water skin but from the panel suddenly displaying information. Contact with a special dual base class holder, Alchemist Genius and Apothecary Genius. Common class acquisition conditions triggered. Acquired common class genius. Do I wish to take the class? Note this is a common class and cannot provide attribute bonuses. My arm trembles. In Yggdrasil, combat classes are base, mid-tier, and high-tier/special, while non-combat are common classes, which can be understood as production classes, such as pharmacist, alchemy, blacksmith, farmer, merchant. In the New World, common classes also include classes that did not exist in the game, such as slave, maid, noble, prince, king, princess, automatically acquired by life experience even if unwilling. This is the fundamental difference between New World people and players. Without almost any hesitation, I tell the panel to take the class. The class change succeeds. Genius Common can substitute for any base class or common class and transform into the required class according to needs, with the note that leveling will not increase base attributes and the class does not carry traits after transformation. I suppress my excitement. Freya, seeing my emotional shift, asks with concern if I am okay. I hurriedly thank him, release his hand, take the water skin, and speak seriously. The thank you is genuine. He nods and walks away. I watch his back and breathe deep, eyes gleaming. I did not expect to obtain this ultra-rare common class. With Genius, I do not have to worry about base class choices, and my margin for error has greatly increased. As far as I know, besides me only Renner the Golden Princess of Resticize possesses Genius, and her Princess Common is transformed from Genius Common. The class is wasted in New World hands. Only a player can unleash its true power. I feel a tightly wound string finally loosen, my feelings of despair fading. I have actually obtained another piece of important information. Contacting Enfiaria triggered the conditions for a common class, which combined with weapon touching gives me two important pieces of information about player. But since I only obtained common class genius and not alchemist or pharmacist, normal contact with others should not trigger class acquisition. It was entirely because Enfiaria has the dual genius trait of alchemist genius and apothecary genius that common class genius was unexpectedly triggered. The ability panel updates. Overall rank 1, EXP 0 of 100. Base class genius 1 level, skill points 3. Passive skill item box, active skill none. My player talent is somewhat different from Yggdrasil players. In the game, every level up lets you choose 3 skills from a related class list, and at level 100 a normal player has around 300 skills, while the Bone King masters 718 including the special skill Dark Wisdom. Only obtaining skill points without a skill list is a bit of bad news. Obtaining skills must be done through other means. My path forward is clearer. I crunch through the hard rye bread, choke a bit, and take a large gulp from Enfiaria's black water skin. From anyone else, I would not have drunk the water. I hang it from my waist and head toward the center of the royal capital with the crowd, deciding to see the duel. There are over 4 years left. Time is tight, but not so tight I cannot spare this. Sharpening the axe will not delay the woodcutting. Both fighters should be around level 20 already, the human powerhouse threshold, and watching them will let me gather information. Gazef and Brian are already famous genius-like figures long before this match, and if I remember right, Brian also possesses warrior genius. The crowd is full of speculation about who will win, which suddenly makes my eyes light up. They do not know, but I do. With a kingdom-wide match like this, there must be betting pools, and even at low odds, betting on Gazef would make me some money. I am poor and need food and lodging. I ask a young man in light leather armor where the nearest betting pool is, deliberately speaking softly. He sizes me up with contempt and asks whether I am an outlander. I say yes, just arrived yesterday, showing no dissatisfaction. He says no betting pools, that this is naturally because of Renner's foresight, that even as an outlander I should have heard of Renner, the pearl of the kingdom with the brilliance of the jewel. When the Imperial tournament began, Renner proposed banning the act of opening betting pools for a match representing national image, calling it an insult to the kingdom's prestige and disrespect to the participating powerhouses. The proposal met some noble opposition but was approved by the king. The young man crosses his arms and praises Renner's foresight and gentle, merciful character. I take a step back expressionless and leave with the crowd, generally understanding. The Golden Princess's reputation among commoners is high. Banning betting pools may be passed on the surface, but cannot be stopped in the shadows. Nobles will run them regardless, and ordinary people cannot participate. My get-rich-quick plan is ruined, calling Renner gentle and merciful, truly. On the surface she has a gentle personality, kind and innocent, considering country and people, possessing golden character. But in reality she is a monster ordinary people cannot comprehend. Even Albedo evaluates her as a heteromorphic in spirit. She is the woman the Blood Emperor hates most. Even the Dragon Queen of the Dragon Kingdom, who has lived hundreds of years pretending to be a lowly, only ranks second in his heart for how much he dislikes her. Our Lunt royal city sits deep within the royal capital, built on a hill, walls connected by more than 20 huge circular towers separating the people of the capital from the royals above. Below the hill on the west side, a huge arena holds the annual imperial tournament, both a grand event and a way for the reesticized kingdom to show military power. I follow the noisy crowd inside with some heartache and sit in the outermost seat, only able to make out the figures on the central ring. The position cost me 5 silver coins, a profitable business. As a witness to historical events, it satisfies curiosity, but had I known the price, I would not have come. The warrior captain and the nail clipper have not appeared yet, but several figures on the ring below seem to be doing inspection work. The only place much higher than the rest is a tower viewing platform to the north, clearly for the kingdom's nobles and royals. Compared to the lively atmosphere elsewhere, this tower is too quiet, gradually affecting other areas like cold water poured on a hot bath, and the surrounding discussions grow much smaller. I shrug bored. Others may not know the reason, but I do. This level of competition ostensibly finds powerful warriors and promotes national strength, but in reality, the imperial tournament from the beginning was a stage for major nobles to show off subordinates. All civilian participants are stepping stones for these noble masters. This involves the noble system itself. Besides eldest sons, other sons cannot inherit titles, which extends to the knight title with no fief, limited to one's own generation, but still a goal sons scramble for, both for noble status and for the high salary that comes with it. The royal family uses this to form a new generation of pro-royal factions, and the imperial tournament awards knight titles to standout noble children. Since a few years ago, participating noble members or their subordinates have been gradually defeated by some civilian adventurers, arousing noble dissatisfaction. The appearance of Gazef and Brian and their sweep all the way here have made this a duel between two civilians. Those nobles' faces will not look good. After Gazef wins, he should receive knight, but the new warrior captain position appeared instead against this background. The reason this is known as the legendary battle is that after this match, the imperial tournament was cancelled. No noble wants a second warrior captain. None of this concerns me. Compared to the future Great Tomb, these are small troubles, and no matter how dissatisfied the nobles are, this competition cannot be blocked. About 10 minutes pass. My expression sharpens as I watch the future warrior captain and the nail clipper walk to the ring. After ascending, they shake hands, seem to say something, then separate by 20 meters and stand face to face. The entire auditorium goes silent. Almost the next moment, Gazef and Brian charge across the gap and collide with their sword-shaped weapons, sparks erupting. So fast, my eyes can only barely capture their figures. I cannot see the swords at all, only the sparks. I lean my head back. Not the same species as ordinary people. The power they collide with cannot be felt at all when watching anime. Only seeing it firsthand makes me realize the impassable chasm between ordinary people and these powerhouses. Around level 20. Inexplicably, I feel the despair the nail clipper will feel facing Shaltir. The title nail clipper is not derogatory. On the ring, a light blue flashes across Brian's body, and he appears behind Gazef like a teleportation. Gazef rolls and reopens distance, a martial skill, technique unique to this other world, not in Yggdrasil, the warrior's magic, requiring concentration which is the focus of the mind, and the more they are used the more brain fatigue rises, a value not in the game but closer to reality. In anime and light novels the power is not weak, but human rank limits make martial skills look not so strong. Suddenly my panel hums and tells me the skill flowing water acceleration is found. Requires basic warrior class, current conditions not met, genius activated, conversion successful, requirements met. Do I want to spend 1 skill point to learn? So this is how skill points are used. The battle grows more intense, bodies constantly flashing with martial skill light. Information continues surfacing on my panel. Skills, weakness, perception, instant reflexes, ability boost, all requiring base warrior, all converted via genius. Each consume 1 skill point to learn. The previously quiet stands turn heated as Gazef and Brian engage in brilliant offense and defense. The crowd cheers their amazement at how strong both fighters are, that one cannot see the battle clearly anymore. I am also excited, but watching my panel rather than the arena. Learning skills by consuming skill points after watching others use them. This method is unexpected. I had thought I would need to learn through independent study like New World people. The common class genius is just as I anticipated, perhaps even better than my initial guesses. With only 3 skill points, I consider which to obtain. A new prompt. Skill Rapid Slash discovered. Requires middle tier class Swordmaster. Current conditions not met. Prerequisite class Genius Warrior already owned. Consume 3 skill points to learn. I narrow my eyes. Middle tier Swordmaster. I subconsciously glance at the arena. This skill seems to come from Brian, who has the upper hand. If I remember right, Brian has 3 classes. Warrior Base, Fencing Specialist middle tier, and Swordmaster middle tier. What I am pondering now is not the Swordmaster class, but another matter I have overlooked. In Yggdrasil, players first obtain the class, then learn skills. But in this other world, it is the opposite. People here learn the skills first, then obtain the related class. No prerequisites required. The high-tier class Ninja, which requires level 60 in the game, has no level requirement here. Learn the skills and obtain the class, just like the Ninja Sisters of the Adamantite rank adventurers Azure Rose. If I learn Rapid Slash now, could I indirectly obtain Swordmaster? If it works, I have discovered another way to obtain classes much more advantageous and accurate than touching equipment, and middle tier and high tier classes would suddenly become much simpler. As for special classes, even the people of this other world who can master high-tier classes are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Special classes belong to high-tier but are completely different, with prerequisites that cannot be cheated. In the game, all level 100 players might obtain multiple high-tier classes, but most could only obtain one special class. The cheers grow louder. Under Brian's storm-like offensive gaze shows signs of retreating step by step, stumbling. Brian takes a quick step forward, seemingly to end it. The next moment, Brian's body freezes, and he flies backward uncontrollably onto the arena. The cheering halts. In that brief moment, something happened I cannot see clearly with current strength, and not many in the audience can. My panel updates. Skill 4-fold Slash of Light discovered. Requires warrior-type class. Genius converted, learning conditions met. Consume 1 skill point. My expression relaxes. History is exactly as I knew it. Gazef achieved final victory with the skill he developed himself. 4-fold Slash of Light. Cheers and applause sweep the entire venue with shouts of Gazef. I look at the panel and decide to learn Rapid Slash to test whether I can indirectly obtain a class through a class skill. Since Genius cannot provide attribute bonuses, I currently need a combat class, and with Genius converting base classes, I can afford the margin of error for a middle tier. Learned Rapid Slash. 3 skill points consumed. Mid-tier class Sword Saint successfully acquired. As expected, I can also use the New World method of acquiring classes. Acquiring the class directly without the option of whether to take it. Combat class acquisition has 2 methods now. Touch-related weapons or equipment, easy for base classes but harder for mid and high tier. Or learn skills via skill points. Lots of room for maneuver as long as there is a target and skill points. But the class is automatically acquired without refusal, so caution is required. With Genius, the first method's utility shrinks. After acquiring Sword Saint, my total level rises to 2, and I have another 3 skill points. With this leveling speed, it is no wonder players in the game took on 100 classes. 3 skill points per level means a maximum of 300. If I lose levels after death and level up again, can I gain skill points repeatedly? In Yggdrasil, no, but here I do not know if I can exploit a bug. I shake my head. Not for now. I use the remaining 2 points on Instant Reflex and 4-fold Slash of Light, keeping 1 skill point in reserve. The panel updates. HP 23 at 1.7%, Physical Attack 23, Magic Attack 13, Magic Defense 13, Total Resistance 0, Specialty 0, Total 9.1%. Ability Sheet. Total Level 2 Base Class Genius 1 Level Warrior, Mid-Tier Class Sword Saint 1 Level, Skill Points 1, Passive Skills Item Box and Slashing Damage 1%. Active Skills Warrior Instant Reflex 4-fold Slash of Light Rapid Slash. The Sword Saint class description. Using slashing weapons such as sabers, swords, axes, and claws can increase slashing damage by 1% per level up to 10%, with each level adding 10 points to HP, physical attack, and agility. Instant Reflex forces the body back to the previous attack stance after an attack. 4-fold Slash of Light launches 4 slashes simultaneously. Attack power has a chance to be dispersed and hit rate is reduced. Rapid Slash is a class skill quickly launching a slash forward dealing 110% physical damage, with a 10-second cooldown. Different classes have different tendencies for the values they increase. A mid-tier class providing only 10 attribute points means base classes are likely much lower. Fortunately, I have Genius. The mid-tier provides a passive, maximum 10% slashing damage, average. The most surprising thing is the difference between martial skills and class skills. Rapid Slash has clear damage and cooldown. Instant Reflex and 4-fold Slash of Light have only basic descriptions. No wonder the Bone King is concerned about martial skills, a completely different system from Overlord. Warrior skills in Yggdrasil had cooldowns with no MP cost, while magic had no cooldown but used MP. Hence the saying MP is the true lifeline of a magic chanter. Martial skills here consume concentration, but my panel does not show a value for it. I will research that on my own. People around me suddenly stand up in unison. Several spectators look at me in surprise as I sit. I cough lightly and stand expressionless, since doing the same as everyone cannot be wrong. The standing motion is abrupt and my body involuntarily leans forward. I steady myself by grabbing the shoulder of the spectator in front of me, a brown-haired middle-aged man with a full beard giving a fierce image. He turns, displeased, clenches his fists, and asks gruffly whether something is the matter, kid. I give an apologetic expression and tell him I was a bit careless. He glares fiercely as if to remember my face, intending to cause trouble later. I prefer keeping a low profile. The reason I was unsteady is that my strength has significantly increased, and I am unaccustomed. The increase in basic attributes is reflected in the body in real time, like I have been training for a long time. I look down at the arena to find Gazif and Brian have already left. The reason everyone stood is that the nobles and royalty in the Round Tower stands left first, and as commoners we had to show respect. I stand for a full half hour. The privileged class is annoying. As nobles leave, the venue grows noisy again with discussion of the result, with envy because both fighters were invited into the palace by the king. The brown-haired man turns around with a clenched fist and a sneer, ready to give the black-haired kid behind him a hard time, only to find no one. He curses loudly that I ran so fast and not to let him catch me. I do not intend to wait around. Sitting in the outermost area, I have no idea how long it will take before my turn to leave. Even so, it takes about 20 minutes to exit the massive ancient arena. The duel had been an eye-opening experience for the audience, and the excited atmosphere only grows more intense as people leave. Outside the gates, an even larger crowd is gathered. Commoners who could not afford to enter but were eager for the results. Both Gaze and Brian having massive followings, since this was the first Imperial tournament with no nobles in the final. Suddenly, waves of exclamations rise, as the spacious flow becomes congested and the crowd clears a wide path for a team. Crimson drop. My brow twitches and I focus on the figure leading the way. Semi-long light blonde hair with a conspicuous streak of red over the forehead. Black jacket over a red shirt resembling noble formal wear. Silver black trousers. Lazy yet stylish. He waves to people on both sides, drawing cheers from women. Rather high profile. Azuth Indra, captain of Crimson Drop, one of only 2 adamantite rank adventurer teams in the Reesti's kingdom, also a knight rank noble. I look at the 4 figures behind him. A middle-aged man in silver armor with cold expression carrying a massive greatsword, a magic caster in a light blue robe shrouded so completely it is clear only that he is male, a longbow archer with faintly gray shimmering bow, and a shorter ordinary-looking man whose appearance and attire reveal nothing of his profession. The shorter one's low presence makes me suspect he is a thief-type class, though I do not know if this is the entire team. Crimson Drop was mysterious in both anime and novels, with only Azuth ever appearing. I am most concerned with Azuth himself. Without knowing the others' levels, I can guess they have not reached the hero realm, level 29 or above. The only truly dangerous one is Azuth. His own strength is mediocre, likely the weakest in the team, yet he is the true core because the team exists because of him. Not for his noble status, but because Azuth possesses a suit of level 51 power armor, and that armor forcibly pulls his mediocre strength up to the top tier of human combat power. Power armor cannot be manufactured by humans of this world. It must be a legacy of the players. I do not know if it is from the 6 great gods, the 8 desires kings, or the 13 heroes captain. Only Azuth himself truly knows. Besides Azuth, the other one with power armor is the Platinum Dragon King, with a level 85 suit, and according to light novels, possibly more than one set. He holds more than just that bit of player legacy. The other true Dragon Lords all know of players in Yggdrasil. The waters of this world are deep. If not for the overwhelming strength of the Great Tomb, they might have suffered several major setbacks. The 13 heroes Captain Riku, a player explicitly named, fell hard. The Platinum Dragon King extracted all player and Yggdrasil information from him and announced to the world that Riku had died young due to trauma of accidentally killing a companion and refused resurrection. People believe that, but as a transmigrator I know exactly what kind of character players have. Refusing resurrection is a complete joke. The Platinum Dragon King is lying. A pure schemer. Crimson Drop passes through, followed by several more adventurer teams drawing more exclamations. I expected to see the other Adamantite team Azure Rose, but I am disappointed. The others I do not recognize, but judging by the welcome they are likely Orialcum or Mithril teams. Time to leave, next is leveling and class building. As I turn, the corner of my eye catches the last team behind. Only 4, but striking. 2 men and 2 women. Most eye-catching are the 2 women in front. A long black hair, blue eyes, cold beautiful face in full plate armor, and a long pink hair cleric whose vestments split on both sides like a cheapao revealing black boots and stockings on her thighs, drawing male gazes. I recognize them. 4 weapons, almost did not recognize them. The pink-haired cleric's outfit makes my eye corner twitch. The fashion of this world is hard to understand, but it must be related to the 6 great gods or 8 desires kings, since players' influence on this world is at least decent in clothing. In the future, 4 weapons will be mithril rank. Not yet. The cool black-haired and full plate, in the future her hair will be white and not for any special reason. She dyes it on purpose, and the roots beneath faintly shimmer gold, since she is actually blonde. Reesti's is primarily blonde, so she dyes black for fame. White in the future is because the Bone King creates a team called Darkness for information, and after they become adamantite, 4 weapons changes look first to avoid taboos, and second because whenever people mention darkness, they think of the Bone King's team. I doubt they have any inflation in becoming mithril, but to tangle with a Death Knight in the future means they have skill. None of them are normal people, and the other 2 male members I have no impression of. A woman's panicked cry rings out from the crowd calling for Kia. Because of the adventurer party's appearance, the sides are crowded, and a little boy of 5 or 6 gets squeezed out of the crowd, blocking 4 weapons' path. He loses balance and falls, his arm hitting the pavement, skin breaking, blood flowing, and he cries loudly. The unexpected event catches the eye of cold-faced leader Scamma walking at the very front. A great opportunity for adventurer party fame. Scamma turns, maintaining a calm expression, preparing to ask the pink-haired Lilynette for help. Before she can speak, Lilynette has already stepped forward quickly, the long split hem of her white priestly robes swaying with her large strides, her fair thighs in fishnet stockings exposed to view, drawing swallowing sounds from the crowd. She squats with a gentle smile, raises her palm at the boy's injured arm, and casts Cure Light Wounds. A soft white light heals the wound instantly. The boy stops crying, wet teardrops still clinging, looks up at her smile and softly thanks the big sister, then shrinks back with a look of fear. He does not know why. The smile feels somewhat frightening. Scamma in full plate walks over and bends down to look at the boy, appearing to check the injury. In reality, she whispers fiercely to Lilynette to put away that predatory look since she does not want their newly reputable party plagued by Shotokan rumors. Lilynette sticks out her rosy tongue and licks the saliva from her mouth corner, whispering disappointedly that unripe fruit is what truly makes one's mouth water. The boy shrinks back again. He cannot understand the conversation but feels they are quite scary. The other 2 male members of 4 weapons look at each other and sigh in unison. From the crowd, a middle-aged woman squeezes out and rushes over nervously, breathing relief at the boy's condition, bowing repeatedly and thanking them gratefully. Adventurer parties are not well regarded by nobility, but hold high fame and prestige among commoners. Scamma and Lilynette stand, expressions returning to previous states, waving righteously that there is no need for thanks. My attention is no longer on this little farce. When Lilynette cast healing, my panel reacted, Skill Cure Light Wounds Tier 1, discovered, requirements base class priestess or priest, rank 1 to 7, current conditions not met, genius activated, conversion successful, learning requirements met. Consume 1 skill point to learn. Priestess. I feel stunned. An unusual light flickers in my eyes. I have no intention of continuing to watch and walk away quickly to find a quiet place to sort things out. It is noon, sunlight scorching, and based on prior inquiries it should be around May, yet the temperature is similar to June or July of my previous life. The Great Tomb of Nazareth should descend in about 4 years around mid-July, so I have a little over 4 years. Tight, but I cannot rush my class build choices. The arena sits near the royal city at the foot of the hill, with plenty of vegetation and trees separating it from the densely packed commoner houses on the outskirts. Looking from above like a green belt, I find a shady spot and sit, pulling up my panel. Total rank 2, base class genius 1 warrior plus priestess and priest, mid-tier swordmaster 1, skill points 0, passive item box plus slashing damage boost 1%, active warrior instant reflex 4-fold slash of light rapid slash, plus magic cure light wounds tier 1. Cure light wounds cost 5 MP, restores 10 HP. Since I mastered the spell, genius now includes priestess and priestess 2 convertible base classes. What truly surprises me is the priestess basecaster class, female exclusive in Yggdrasil, with subtle differences from priest. Priestess leans more toward magic caster with healing bonuses for advanced priestess. The fact that a female-only class can be converted by genius is beyond my expectations. Does this mean I have a female character buff that lets me take on classes obtainable only by females? Because this concerns a special class. From anime and light novels, the special classes I know of are the Bone King's Eclipse, Cocytus' Asura, Shaltir's Valkyrie, Mara's Apostle of Disaster, Demiurge's Origin of Evil, Victim's Martyr. Albedo also possesses one whose name is never detailed, with the ability to transfer death to her armor up to 3 times. Combined with a resurrection item, one would have to kill her 4 times to truly kill her. Besides these, there are World Champion, World Disaster, and so on, which I do not need to consider now. So I filter from these 6. The first I exclude are Eclipse, Origin of Evil, Martyr. Eclipse requires learning all classes in the necromancy system and reaching rank 95. An extreme build is too easy to counter. Origin of Evil is demon race only. Martyr is angel race only. The remaining Asura, Valkyrie, and Apostle of Disaster do not have such harsh requirements. Asura, Valkyrie, Apostle of Disaster. My initial target is Apostle of Disaster. Mare is Dark Elf, subhuman, no racial classes. His build is 100 levels of job classes, meaning the special class has no racial prerequisite. I know quite a bit about Mare's class info, and with Genius's margin for error I might be able to derive Apostle of Disaster even if I waste 1 or 2 mid-tiers. Asura is Cocytus's. Based on the limited info on his stat sheet, Asura does not seem clearly connected to his class structure. I suspect it was obtained through a special tool or item. Then Valkyrie. In anime and light novels, two people have it. Shaltir and Zeshi Zetsume, both female. I cannot help but guess this is a special class only obtainable by females. With this in mind, I could only set sights on Apostle of Disaster, but now with the appearance of Priestess, it is highly likely I have a female character buff. So Valkyrie is possible. Shaltir's Valkyrie class structure is much clearer than Mare's Apostle of Disaster. I take a deep breath and recall info on Shaltir while sketching on the ground with my finger. Aside from the Bone King, she is one of the two characters who appeared most frequently in anime and light novels, so the most info has been revealed. Shaltir's level structure is racial 20 plus job, 80 equals total 100. The classes revealed on her stat sheet are Valkyrie Lance level 5, Cursed Knight level 5, Priest level 10. In the light novels, two more were revealed, Blood Drinker and Cursed Caster. I am certain these are advanced classes. Blood Drinker has an exclusive skill blood pool shown during her battle with the Bone King. The novel mentioned Cursed Caster has a negative effect, causing her to fall into a frenzied state when touching blood. In anime, when she first encountered Nail Clipper and attacked humans, she suddenly went berserk because of this class, though it was not specifically mentioned in the anime. In Overlord, classes with negative effects are generally powerful advanced classes using negative effects as restriction. So Valkyrie/Lance 5 plus Cursed Knight 5 plus Cursed Caster 5 totals 25 known levels, 55 unaccounted for. Too little info to make a clear deduction, but I am a science student after all. I grin, entering a state of excitement as if returned to puzzle games of my past life, and quickly circle two classes on the ground. Setting aside Valkyrie, Priest is a base class needing little attention. I do not know much about Blood Drinker, so I set that aside too. The remaining two advanced classes should each have their own independent prerequisite class structures. Following math problem logic, by factoring in unknowns, one can forcibly derive knowns. Base Warrior Unknown level 15 to Mid-Tier Warrior Unknown level 10 to Cursed Knight 5 totals 30 levels. Base Caster Unknown level 15 to Mid-Tier Caster Unknown level 10 to Cursed Caster 5 totals 30 levels. 60 plus Valkyrie Lance 5 plus Blood Drinker 5 plus Priest 10 equals 80 job levels exactly. Shaltir's info suddenly becomes clear. Blood Drinker is an advanced racial class unique to the vampire race. Among her classes, the only one slightly standing out is the base class Priest. The other person who possesses Valkyrie is Zeshi Zetsume of the Theocracy. Among currently known powerful characters, Zeshi is the only one whose class build is completely clear. Fighter 10, Barbarian 10, Master Fighter 10, Lesser Valkyrie Almighty 5, Weapon Master 7, Rogue 1, Assassin 5, Executioner 10, Priest 10, High Priest 10, Inquisitor 10, 11 classes totaling 88. By level alone, Zeshi has reached top tier of the New World, but her build is exceptionally chaotic. 3 series of Warrior, Rogue, and Faith-based Magic Chanter, making her overall strength much lower than a player of equal level. Her Lesser Valkyrie can be understood as a degraded Valkyrie. This happens because she does not meet the true prerequisites, an incomplete phenomenon unique to the New World. For an advanced class like Ninja that requires level 60 in the game, New World people can obtain it as long as they learn the skills first. But special classes have extremely strict prerequisites. I guess Zeshi obtained it indirectly through her talent, but because of the strict requirements she could only obtain a degraded version. The only class both Shaltir and Zeshi share is Priest. As the trump card of the Theocracy, it is normal for Zeshi to have Priest, but Shaltir is undead. Despite being undead vampire, she has the incongruous Holy type Priest class and did not even level it to maximum. The only possibility for doing this is to fulfill a certain condition. A sharp light flickers in my eyes and I press my palm heavily into the ground. Got you, Valkyrie. Yggdrasil is based on Norse mythology. Valkyrie originally had no concept. They were called Valkyrja, choosers of the slain, essentially synonymous with evil, gradually evolving into women who choose the fallen warriors, becoming holy. Valhalla has a connection. The requirements for Valkyrie are likely female, the base class Priest, and the advanced class Cursed Knight. Cursed Knight rather than Cursed Caster because Valkyrie is warrior specialized. I brush dust from my hands, exhale heavily, and wipe away all the seemingly chaotic Hanzi I scratched. Although no one in this world would recognize Hanzi, one cannot be too careful. The advanced Cursed Knight, by game settings, requires level 60 plus the prerequisite class structure, but per New World job acquisition one can obtain an advanced class directly by learning the skills first. I prop my hands on my knees, stand, brush dust from my buttocks, and mutter that if my memory serves, there is a person in the Baharith Empire who possesses the Cursed Knight class. Having understood special class requirements, although still not 100% certain, there is at least a chance to try. I feel slightly more at ease. That person in the Baharith Empire will not disappear. So next is leveling first, then heading to the Baharith Empire to obtain Cursed Knight. With a clear goal, I no longer hesitate and head toward the Adventurers Guild. For a player, the most important thing is killing monsters to level up, but that is for playing games. In this real other world, especially when my level is very low and weak, safety is most important. The Imperial tournament has ended, and commoners and adventurers attracted by the duel will begin to leave. I have no official status in the royal capital. Currently, because of the duel, no inspections are being carried out. Once the capital returns to normal, an outsider like me will easily attract attention, and the capital has no suitable places to kill monsters. My next plan is to head to E-Rantel, a border city of Riastai's, but I know too little of this world. Along the way, dangers are likely. So I head to the Adventurers Guild, hoping to find an adventurer party also heading to E-Rantel. In the capital, aside from luxurious noble buildings near the center, the largest structures are the Adventurers Guild and the Magic Casters Guild in the Commoner District, so finding it is not difficult. Their location shows neither is highly valued by the upper echelons. The Riastai's kingdom highly venerates brave warriors, while the Baharuth Empire emphasizes magic, the latter because of Fluter Paradine, Chief Court Wizard and National Ace, who has surpassed the hero realm and is one of only 4 outliers among humanity, having lived over 260 years from the first emperor to the current Blood Emperor. Fluter possesses the high-tier class Immortal, and obtained longevity through a magical ritual using it. When I head to the Baharuth Empire, there is another high-tier class I need to plan for. The Adventurers Guild is built in the outer Commoner District, a conspicuous square tower-shaped building 4 stories high. People come and go through the main entrance. My footsteps pause briefly before I walk inside. A clamorous atmosphere rushes me. The interior is unexpectedly spacious, no extra decorations or furniture, a wooden floor and a massive chandelier above. Directly facing the entrance is a relatively large front desk, where staff communicate with several adventurer parties. Several gazes look my way as I walk in, but withdraw simultaneously after brief observation. With my shabby appearance, I do not look like a powerful adventurer or a paying client. I deliberately dress like this so as not to attract attention. From the request boards on both walls come noisy voices. One party debates a request. The reward's too low after the Adventurers Guild's 20% cut, considering a gold rank request that an escort mission with a long journey might earn them gold rank promotion. I walk to the front desk and queue behind other parties, recalling adventurer info. The guild divides parties into 8 ranks: copper, iron, silver, gold, platinum, mithril, orichalcum, adamantite. There is no clear strength division because any party joining starts from copper no matter how strong. As long as you are not deliberately hiding strength or holding rank back, the rank still shows basic level. I do not wait long. The receptionist is not very old, a young girl with slightly curly brown hair and brown eyes. About my current age, 16 or 17. She politely asks the name of my adventurer party, showing no unusual expression at my clothing or foreign appearance. I tell her softly I do not have one, just have something to ask about. She thinks she understands and pulls out a yellowed paper form to register me as an adventurer. I wave my hand and explain I do not plan to register. Just want to ask if there are merchant caravans or adventurer parties heading to E-Rantel. She pauses, looks again at the short sword and water skin at my waist, and a look of realization appears, asking if I came to watch the Imperial tournament from a border city, calling it impressive to travel so far alone. 5 copper coins, she says, raising her rough palm. I am stunned. If it were not that I truly cannot read this world's script, I would not have come to ask. Over 10 years of schooling in my past life and I am still illiterate now. She squeezes a serious expression that this is the Adventurers Guild, and for non-adventurer members any consultation requires a fee, that there is no such thing as free here. As a large-scale organization that exists across borders unconstrained by any nation, the guild's strength lies not just in powerful adventurers, but in the invisible information network constructed by a vast number of adventurer members. Outsiders pay for it, and much precious info cannot be measured by money. This is also why the guild is not well liked by upper echelons of various countries while they collaborate with it in secret. The slain theocracy is behind the Adventurers Guild. The brown-haired girl seems to see my hesitation. Her lips curl slightly as she suggests that, if I register as an adventurer, such questions are free, eyes expectant. My brow twitches and I ask whether a person can register alone. She says adventuring is dangerous. Anyone can register, no explicit rule on number, but in practice for safety a minimum of 2 is required. No explicit rule, lowering her voice at the end. I ask the registration cost. 1 silver coin, she raises a finger and wags it. I reach into my pocket as cover, take out a silver coin from my item box and place it on the counter. Her eyes light up, about to process it. No, it is for that 5 copper question. I press my hand on the silver coin, still expressionless. I have only 2 gold, 6 silver and 3 copper left. Once I reach E-Rantel, I will need to spend, so I will not waste extra on registering. I have no time for guild quests anyway. She slumps and points without interest toward an escort request to E-Rantel that, despite the distance, pays the minimum gold rank, calling it stingy and likely to be taken by that silver rank party. Since I do not seem to know anything, she gives me a tip. I need both client consent and adventurer consent to follow. I look in the direction she points and see a 4-person party. A flash of realization. The same group I passed earlier, overheard discussing pushing for gold rank. I release the silver and push it to her. She picks it up, rubs lightly with her fingers, and places it in the box, picking out 8 copper coins on the table. Thank you, I nod, put the copper in my pocket, and turn to leave. She freezes, watching my back, a complex, peculiar expression on her face, since most adventurers are crude, let alone to a low-level receptionist like herself. She murmurs that I look so poor, well, simple, yet unexpectedly polite. Now that she thinks about it, I am actually quite handsome with rare black hair and dark brown eyes, and her cheeks flush slightly, wondering if I am foreign or from another country. I walk to a corner of the hall, lean against the wall, and sigh. Things are more troublesome than I imagined. I had thought it too simple. Requiring consent from both parties is basically impossible. The client wants protection, not extras. The party will not look for trouble. But going to E-Rantel is necessary. Whether the Great Forest of Tob to the north or the Kaz Plains to the south, both are good leveling places. And this other world is not a game. Monsters do not respawn. To raise rank, I must go to places with many monsters. E-Rantel borders Riestais and Bahareth. More convenient. If only safety mattered, within Riestais danger would not be high. Most importantly, I do not understand the kingdom's situation, and an adventurer party helps avoid unnecessary trouble. My info about this other world is all too high-end. Conversely, I know too little of the basics. If my strength were great, it would not matter. But my rank is too low. Based on what the brown-haired girl said, the long distance to E-Rantel is gold rank, and my money cannot afford to hire one. A compromise, E-Rantel is at the easternmost edge with E-Rebel, Marquis Raven's territory, a top noble city between. Going to E-Rebel first, then E-Rantel should be significantly cheaper. The only problem is wasted time, and time is what I lack most. Suddenly, a familiar voice with a hint of nervousness asks Miss Daya whether anyone has taken the request posted yesterday. The brown-haired girl's calm voice answers that her request was just taken by a silver-rank party, and she asks if Enfiaria is satisfied or wants it changed. The slightly nervous voice quickly says no need, that they have no special requirements. I look up surprised. Enfiaria here? Was the request to E-Rantel posted by him? His grandmother is a magic chanter who can use third-tier magic, so why hire an adventurer party? While I am dazed, Enfiaria has already made contact with that silver-rank party. Looks like the request has officially been taken. I think for a moment, stand, and walk toward Faria. Over there, Enfiaria speaks softly that the journey ahead might be a bit strenuous. The leader, in blacklight armor, pats it cheerfully and says they have done this kind of request several times and can guarantee his safety. Enfaria's introverted personality shows. Awkwardness appears on his face, wanting to say something but not. That is not what he meant. Suddenly a voice comes from behind. Hello. And Faria turns dazedly. The 4 next to him had noticed me walking over but had not paid attention, assuming I was passing by. Unexpectedly, I came directly to them. The 4 men's eyes simultaneously fall on me, observing. They had just accepted a quest, and although it was unlikely someone would attack a client within the guild, vigilance was necessary. Enfaria's bright blue eyes look at me with surprise. He clearly recognizes the person from the road. Black hair is too rare, difficult not to recognize. I softly thank him for the water skin with a smile. He says don't be so polite. Glad he could help, and awkwardly scratches his head, also noticing the water skin at my waist. I speak to Enfiaria while looking at the 4 adventurers, and ask whether I overheard correctly that they are heading to E-Rantel, and if I could join. Everyone is startled. Enfiaria hesitates. He does not mind, but it requires his grandmother. The 4 show no emotional change, but their blank expressions are themselves an answer. I had anticipated this. I had noticed earlier a slight problem with the team's functional composition. I admit my words were a bit abrupt, then raise my palm and softly cast Cure Light Wounds. A soft white light emerges from my palm, emitting a warm glow. The 4 adventurers, expressionless, simultaneously light up, looking at me with surprise and astonishment. Faith-based magic caster 1 even gasps. The healing magic I suddenly cast also draws attention from many in the guild hall. In Overlord and the New World, professions divide into warrior and spellcaster main categories. Warrior subdivides into combat, defensive, archer, rogue, and so on. Spellcasters into arcane, faith, spiritual, and other systems. Spellcasters who possess healing abilities are, in New World perception, all considered faith-based magic casters. Adventuring is dangerous, combat likely to occur during quests. Once injured, even minor wounds could lead to death or amputation untreated. Adventurers always carry healing potions, expensive but no choice. With a faith caster who can use healing magic, a team saves money and greatly increases survival rate. Faith casters are much fewer than arcane. In the game, different casters were no different, all consuming MP. But in the New World, just like martial skills require concentration, faith casters are similar. Once a faith caster appears, they are invited by powerful teams while weaker teams lack qualification. I seem not to notice the 4's surprised gazes. After casting, I casually take out my short sword and tell them I also have some sword skills and will not be a burden. My fingers move and the short sword flexibly flips around in my palm, appearing as if I had specialized training. Before watching the Imperial tournament, my use of the short sword was clumsy, since I had not practiced in my previous life, But after acquiring Sword Saint, I feel an indescribable familiarity with sword-type weapons, as if I had trained for a long time. The people present, seeing the skilled movements, understand I also possess certain combat skills. I skillfully reattach the sword to my waist and look at Enfiaria and the four. Especially noticing their surprised, satisfied looks, I exhale heavily, realizing there are no problems with the team. Enfiaria cannot help widening his eyes and exclaiming admiration that I am amazing. He had not expected someone he casually helped to be a faith caster wielding healing magic and possessing formidable sword skills. Was this what genius was like? Just from my appearance, it was unexpected. His grandmother was right about not judging things by outward appearance. The captain walks over, blonde, 24 or 25, slightly curly whiskers, exuding a cheerful aura, light armor on upper body, no protection on lower, 2 long swords at each side of his waist. I guess light warrior. He introduces himself as Dosari with a beaming smile and his 3 good friends as Basque, Lure, Rand, who introduces in turn. None mention professions, but their attire suggests no healing and no spellcaster. Lure and Rand look similar with the same light blonde hair, likely twins, both with silver shields strapped to left and right arms. Basque is an archer. Captain Dosari says their party is called Rock, and as the name suggests, they are skilled in defensive battles, an enthusiastic demeanor not even shown to Enfiaria, their client. I know the reason. I simply nod and tell them I am Tang, not saying much else. We have no problem on our end, Captain Dosari says, still smiling, and glances at Enfiaria, implying it is fine as long as the client agrees. Enfiaria does not hesitate. He seems very interested in me, a peer. He says he needs to discuss this with his grandmother, and tells me to follow along for now. He turns and hurries to the exit. Captain Dosari says they should follow too, as a good opportunity to meet the client, looks at me and laughs heartily, asking if I am coming. I nod. Captain Dosari walks side by side with me toward the exit, the other 3 following closely, vaguely forming a protective formation around me. After I revealed healing magic, quite a few parties had been itching to make a move. The Rock Party's actions make many surrounding parties curse inwardly. At the desk, Dea watches us leave with envy and sadness, whispering that I am amazing. You could not tell from my appearance. And if only her younger brother. She returns to a professional smile, attending to other adventurers. Outside the guild, a cargo wagon is parked, an old wooden wagon piled high. The bottom layer wooden crates of various sizes, the top covered with dried straw-like plants. Approaching the wagon brings a strong pungent scent of herbs. At the very front sits an old woman holding a whip with a light green headscarf, none other than Lizzie. We see Enfiaria talking to her, clearly telling her what just happened in the guild. We do not go over immediately, but wait near the back of the wagon. We do not wait long, and Enfiaria walks over with happiness on his face. Grandmother agreed. I can come along, but she wants me to demonstrate healing magic in front of her again. No problem, I say softly. Following Enfiaria and his grandmother, whom I know well, is much more reassuring than randomly following a caravan or party. Plus, Lizzie is a magic chanter capable of using 3rd-tier magic. I follow Enfiaria to Lizzie. Wrinkled face and white hair make her look very old. Expressionless face and slightly protruding jawbones make her look difficult to get along with. In reality, someone who could raise Enfiaria to such a gentle personality could not have a bad personality. Where am I from? She asks expressionlessly. Black hair and dark brown eyes are very rare throughout the entire kingdom. I am stunned. This is not easy to answer. Forget it, a trivial matter, she says, narrowing her eyes slightly and pointing to the black horse pulling the wagon, and tells me to use healing magic on it. The horse looks a bit old. On its neck and back is a visible indentation, likely from years of pulling. The hair on its hindquarters sparse with a few red marks faintly visible. All right. I do not waste words and raise my palm at the horse and cast Cure Minor Wounds. The mana I can clearly feel within my body is suddenly drained again. A soft white light envelops the horse and the red marks heal and disappear. The horse shakes its head and snorts comfortably. I exhale. Although I do not feel tired, the mana in my body is almost completely consumed. The 1st-tier Cure Minor Wounds requires 5 mana. With the time I demonstrated in the guild, I have already used it twice, and I only have 13 mana. If asked again, I cannot. My panel shows that since the first cast, my MP has not recovered even 1 point. The rate of automatic mana recovery is much slower than I expected, possibly because I do not have a magic-related class right now. Although Genius can transform into any base class, it clearly does not include the stat bonuses or effects from other classes. Lizzie nods, squeezing a smile onto her wrinkled cheeks, and says it looks like our speed returning to E-Rantel can be increased. Let's set off. She stops paying attention to me and calls out to Enfiaria. After Enfiaria climbs onto the wagon and sits beside her, the whip cracks against the horse. Wooden wheels press against stone bricks, and we set off with creak. The Rock Party and I can only follow closely behind, clearly not invited to board. Fortunately, the wagon already fully loaded cannot move very fast. May 17th, 4 years before the Common Era. On the 2nd day of my transmigration, I leave the royal capital. Within Riestize, most of the region is plains, the north and west bordering sea with 2 huge port cities. The kingdom is primarily inhabited by humans with very few demi-humans, related to the populace's consciousness which detests other races. In recent years, the slain theocracy is at war with the Elven Kingdom further south, and from time to time, forest elves are sold to reestais in Bahareth, generally over 300 gold coins, with skilled ones over 1,000, sold entirely as living magic tools. 3 days have passed since leaving the capital. These pieces of info were mentioned by the Rock Party in conversations. They seem to want to build a closer relationship and answer almost every question on simple matters, so I indirectly learned basic common sense. There is no danger along the way, perhaps because we are in the center of kingdom territory. After a few days of contact, besides becoming basically familiar with each other, I finally understand why Lizzie, capable of third-tier magic, still hires adventurers. Because they are needed as manual labor. The cartload of medicinal herbs needs to be taken out to dry every day, and loading and unloading naturally fall to the Rock Party, for which Captain Dosari has complained to me in private several times. As for me, I am not idle either. During drying time and resting at night, I have to use healing magic on the horse. It is not just about treating shallow whip wounds. According to Lizzie, healing magic can not only restore injuries, but also restore a portion of the treated subject's energy. Such a situation makes me realize the performance of skills in the game is somewhat different from the real world. Continuously consuming mana, I observe my recovery rate at about 1 point per hour. Night. Stars are scattered across the sky, brighter than I ever saw in my previous life, adorned with starlight and moonlight. The bonfire crackles. Enfiaria sits by it studying herbs in his hands, sniffing them, occasionally tasting them. Grandmother Lizzie stands before the carriage checking the herbs on board. In the Rock Party, Captain Dosari and the elder twin Rand are on perimeter guard. The other two have gone to scout. We are camping in the wilderness. Captain Dosari said a village was not far where we could stay, but Grandmother Lizzie refused, not wanting a detour. The carriage holds a chest of precious herbs to be refined in E-Rantel as soon as possible, so we took the fastest route, bypassing several towns. This would normally cause adventurer dissatisfaction, since client and party is merely partnership, and unacceptable client behavior lets adventurers terminate the request mid-mission with a guild penalty. Acting as laborers while traveling an unsafe route would normally bring conflict. But once Rock learned that Lizzie was the owner of E-Rantel's best pharmacy and famous pharmacist, their dissatisfaction vanished and they grew much more attentive. The Rock Party is exceptionally pragmatic. I sit by the bonfire watching Enfiaria study his herbs. He holds a thumb-length slender root in his palm and takes a small bite, then spits out the bit, saying that this is bitter root, that the two look identical from the outside. Noticing me watching, he explains that the herb is bitter root, that it looks exactly like plum root and one can only tell them apart by taste. That bitter root is suitable for steeping in wine with certain detoxifying properties and is a base for anti-venom potions, while plum root has a hint of sweetness, suitable as a base for healing potions. He is usually shy, but talking about herbs, his eyes brighten and his voice grows much more confident. I nod, appearing to listen intently. In reality, I want to see if I can acquire the pharmacist class by learning about herbs. No notifications yet on my panel, and Faria asks if I am very interested in herbs. I tell him I am indeed somewhat interested. Grandmother Lizzie snorts and walks over, hands behind her back, telling Enfiaria not to show off his shallow knowledge, that tasting with one's mouth is the most basic and lowest method of identification, that it is not as if his nose cannot smell. Enfiaria lowers his head ashamed and replies that he understands. I look away, unsure if the scolding carries a hidden warning for me. In this other world where knowledge spread is clearly restricted, my behavior of asking Enfiaria about herb lore lately is somewhat inappropriate. Lizzie tells me not to be nervous, that she may be a bit petty but will not get angry over something like this, even if it is the truth. Calling herself petty, I as an outsider know anything I say right now would be inappropriate. She tells me bluntly I should not think I can make healing potions just by understanding a few herbs, that since I have some talent in faith-based magic I should not waste energy elsewhere, that martial skills or herbology are all a waste of time. I realize she is giving well-intentioned advice and quickly thank Mrs. Bear Air. Her wrinkled face smooths significantly. She seems to enjoy the title. Bear is her surname, learned while talking to Enfiaria, though I knew all along. 2 sets of footsteps approach. It is the younger twin Lure and the archer Basque returning from scouting. With their return, the other 2 Rock members relax slightly. A weak groaning sound comes from behind Lure. He carries a wild boar weighing over 200 caddies, looking exceptionally relaxed, saying good luck and dinner is sorted. An arrow pierced right through the forehead and it is still not dead. Rand stands with hands on hips, looking at the boar's visible blood hole, and praises Basque's archery has improved again. Just a wild boar, Basque says with a light chuckle. Lure walks to the bonfire and drops the boar with a heavy thud, then tells me it has still got 1 breath left and points a finger at a spot on the boar's neck for a clean kill. Thanks. I rise from the bonfire and walk toward the boar. Because Lizzie wants to return as quickly as possible, the route does not allow resting in towns. She did not lack food, but that did not include the Rock Party and me. So besides rationing their own carried food, the party also hunted. which was no problem for adventurers. During this process, I had mentioned wanting to deliver finishing blows to captured prey, publicly explaining I intended to become an adventurer but had not seen blood yet and wanted to acclimate. The rock party had no suspicions. I truly do not look like an adventurer, since even the lowest ranked would carry tools, but I have none. They could tell that much, so whenever they catch a beast, they leave one breath for me. I draw my short sword and walk to the still twitching boar, raise the sword without hesitation, and plunge it into the spot Lure pointed out. The sword tip enters and a gentle twist fades the boar's final breath. Blood seeps without spraying, exactly why Lure reminded me to strike this spot. The panel flashes that I gained 15 experience points. The ability sheet shows overall rank 2, EXP 95 of 100, only 5 from leveling, much faster than anticipated since I killed only a few wild beasts. My rank is still low. As it increases, leveling will likely grow harder. Lizzie's satisfied expression has already vanished. She thought I had taken her words to heart, but it seems I had not. I pretend not to hear. In this other world, once a human reaches level 29, they enter the hero realm, top powerhouses of human nations. Even with higher talent and unremitting effort, the limit is around level 40, an outlier. This is not talent or effort, but the limit of the race itself, and the 4 outliers among humans show a tendency to stop being human to achieve such feats. Yet level 40 is merely a beginning for me. It is also fated that opposing the great tomb of Nazarick, no human can stand as my companion. When I first transmigrated to the royal capital, I struggled over whether to take a magic or warrior class first, rather than focusing on a single series. Partly for this reason, without companions, a pure magic or warrior class would easily be targeted. Lure grins at my clean, efficient movements and lifts the boar again, telling me I am much more skilled than when I started, but reminding me there is a difference between monsters and ordinary wild beasts. There has to be a learning process, I smile faintly, picking up the ceramic jar I borrowed from Enfiaria and pouring my water skin in, then setting the jar over the campfire. The jar was for herbs but temporarily idle, so I asked to use it as a kettle. Enfiaria remarks that I seem to really like drinking hot water, having watched me boil clear river water for several days before drinking. Not that I love it that much. I sit cross-legged and smile that it is a tradition from my hometown. He has a moment of realization and does not press further. In this world, different regions have various faiths and customs. Prying is to be avoided. Currently, the mainstream faith in most nations is the 6 great gods. Humans of this world owe their existence to the first batch of descended players. Almost everything in the anime and light novels takes place within human territories, which seem large, but the continent is enormous, and humans are merely huddled in its northwestern corner. The central regions are occupied by demi-humans and xenomorphs, where humans are slaves or food. Lifespans and level caps of demi-humans and xenomorphs far exceed humans with their limited potential. Logically, humans should have gone extinct over time, and indeed 600 years ago humanity was on the brink. Then the first batch of players known as the 6 great gods descended, and with overwhelming peerless power rescued humanity, moving them to the northwestern corner. That is why the 6 great gods are the mainstream faith. Unfortunately, except for the god of death, the other 5 were of the human race and died one after another over 100 years. The only survivor god of death was also killed 500 years ago during a battle after the 8 Desires Kings descended. Compared to the 6 great gods, the 8 Desires Kings behave much more like players, the name itself showing how they ravaged the continent. According to records of various races, although most of the 8 Desires Kings were demi-humans or xenomorphs, they held quite a bit of goodwill toward humans. So even now, despite being vile existences, there are no legends about them being evil within human society. 600 years ago, the 6 great gods descended. 500 years ago, the 8 Desires Kings. 200 years ago, numerous demon gods appeared and the 13 heroes emerged. There is also other unknown info about players who likely descended on the central continent. And then the Great Tomb of Nazarick will descend. Almost every 100 years, players descend into this other world. Calculating from this, the true Dragon Lords probably know players are about to descend again. Compared to the suddenness and limited info of previous times, this time the true Dragon Lords should be prepared. However, compared to the 6 great gods, the 8 Desires Kings, and the sole player among the 13 heroes, the overall strength of the Great Tomb far exceeds the previous 3 groups. An idea surfaces. If I can get the true Dragon Lords to clash with the Great Tomb ahead of time, I might be able to reap benefits as a bystander. Even if the true Dragon Lords lose, it would only benefit me, conveniently depleting the Great Tomb's resources and most of its strength. The 200 Jin boar is quickly processed by Lure and Rand with skillful movements. All the internal organs are removed and buried in a small pit. In my view, a bit of waste. The Rock Party and Enfiaria seem completely uninterested in organs, clearly not having the habit of eating offal. I do not say much. Do not be fooled by how these people appear like low-level minor characters in the anime. Whether the adventurers or Enfiaria and his grandmother, none belong to the ranks of the poor. The clean boar meat goes over the campfire, layers of fat dripping. A fragrant aroma permeates the air. Captain Dosari walks over, sits beside me and converses in a hearty tone. I maintain a listening expression, nodding occasionally while he does most of the talking. Enfiaria is the same, very interested in adventurer experiences. Captain Dosari speaks of interesting anecdotes mixed with boasting, but I still gather useful info. The next day, just at dawn, everyone sets off. The journey ahead gets tougher, especially as we draw closer to the border. The angelic mountain range stretches as far as the eye can see and has appeared in everyone's sight. The relaxed atmosphere becomes serious. Attacks by monsters gradually grow more frequent, though most are weak demonic beasts. I gain quite a bit of experience. The angelic mountain range separates Riastais from Baharuth, a natural barrier. Captain Dosari says 400 years ago the two were actually the same nation, but for unknown reasons the original massive country was destroyed and split. Suddenly, Bask the archer guarding the rear gives a warning, his ears twitching, a serious solemn expression appearing, saying something big is coming. The other rock members' expressions change. Lizzie pulls the reins, bringing the carriage to a halt, while Enfiaria on the carriage grips the wooden railing with nervous hands. I notice the rock member's expression change and my gaze tightens. Through contact, I know Basak possesses a hearing talent far beyond ordinary, his role being long-range firepower and intelligence gathering. For him to be this nervous, he has clearly heard something terrifying. However, I remain relatively calm. The real powerhouse in this group is not the adventurer team, but Grandmother Lizzie. Piercing screeches ring out with rustling sounds from the grass and figures rush out. Less than 1 meter tall, dark green skin, very thin and weak, white pupils and ferocious faces. Goblins, as many as 10, most holding wooden clubs and other weapons. Not actually much threat. Goblins are weak, reproduce fast, low intelligence. One-on-one a careful ordinary adult could solo one. Not to mention rock, calculating by rank. The average silver rank is between 7 and 10. Of course there are several types of the goblin race. Is the real danger behind them? My gaze moves past the goblins toward the dense forest. Heavy footsteps approach. Compared to the screeching goblins, the presence behind feels truly oppressive. Everyone pay attention. Captain Dosari draws the twin swords and gives a serious low shout. Following a beast-like roar, a figure over 2 meters tall, with fat, sturdy build, dark yellow skin, back covered in armor-like skin with short spikes strides out. Ogre. No, 2. Bask Grim. Goblins gain a surge of courage, wave wooden clubs, rush the carriage. Deal with goblins first. Captain Dosari is first to charge, raises his right longsword and throws forward. The sword strikes the leading goblin in the chest, light green blood gushing, splashing the ground. Dosari reaches, steps on its chest, pulls upward, blood mixed with shredded meat sprays. Then he swings his left-hand sword, decapitating a nearby goblin with a single stroke. The Rand brothers raise silver shields and charge, each knocking a goblin down and slamming shields, crushing them. Bask draws and fires steadily, quickly killing 2 goblins. In moments, 6 of 10 goblins are dealt with. I take a deep breath, not nervous, just slightly nauseated by the bloody scene. Along the way we had encountered scattered monster attacks. Not the first such scene, but as a modern person there is still discomfort. The fishy scent of blood, the goblin head hacked off in the distance, bodies crushed by shields. This world feels more and more real. Besides nausea, I also feel a faint, inexplicable sense of excitement. I have some understanding of the 8 Desires Kings who once brought chaos to the continent. While I am dazed, the remaining 4 goblins are also dealt with. The 2 ogres roar angrily and rush from the forest. The ground vibrates as the 2 ogres run. Captain Dosari issues orders while retreating, telling Lure and Rand to stop the one on the left and stall it, telling Bask they will handle the right one, prioritizing eyes and throat. Got it, Captain. Lure and Rand raise shields together, charging the left. I'll provide cover. Bask draws his bow and shoots an arrow toward the right ogre's eye. The ogre raises its broad, rough palm to block its face. The arrow sinks into its palm but does not even pierce through. Human food. The sharp pain catches its attention. It rips the arrow out, throws it down, and roars, charging at Bask. Good. Captain Dosari nods, but his expression is exceptionally grave. Given Bask's skill, he did not pierce through, showing how thick-skinned and tough the opponent is. Captain Dosari halts retreat, stomps, bends knees, crosses his twin swords and calls haste. A faint blue flashes across his body. His body surges forward, appearing in front of the ogre at speed far exceeding before. He swings his crossed swords heavily down onto the ogre's chest. 2 deep gashes appear. Despite the strike, aside from a bit of blood seeping, it cannot be considered a serious injury compared to the ogre's massive physique. The ogre cries out in pain and swings a thick fist at Captain Dosari. Dosari quickly raises his swords above his head to block, but the heavy force still transmits, numbing his arms and nearly causing him to lose grip. In this dangerous moment, Bask shouts twin shot and 2 arrows whistle through the air. The ogre about to press advantage suddenly feels vision go dark, followed by intense pain. It clutches blinded eyes and falls to the ground, rolling in agony. Captain Dosari retreats, putting distance, breathes slight relief, and thanks Bask. Bask says now isn't the time for thanks, that while it is blind they should finish it off, that the Rand brothers' side is about to break, that these things are really thick-skinned, still not dead. Even after eye shots, I look at my panel. Regarding the martial skills used by Rock, I do not waste skill points. These few are not very strong. The gap between demi-humans and humans is truly obvious. Ogres are subspecies of trolls, and compared to trolls who have fast recovery, ogres are just a bit more thick-skinned. This negligible in-game talent combined with size advantage in this world results in Rock being completely suppressed. At the same level, it is almost impossible for humans in this world to defeat demi-humans or xenomorphs. No wonder before players arrived, humans were nearly on the brink of extinction. In Yggdrasil, human players could slowly bridge the racial advantage after level 50 through class builds, but here humans can only reach level 40. Dosari exhales, shakes his somewhat numb arms, and walks with sharp gaze toward the ogre rolling in pain. He aims for the heart. He raises his left longsword and thrusts in with sudden strength. Red blood with a faint green tint sprays. The ogre's body stiffens. Thick arms slump. Seeing one ogre dealt with, everyone breathes relief. Captain Dosari looks toward the Rand brothers, reaches to pull his sword forcefully, and stands to go help. However, the ogre that should have died twitches, lets out a struggling cry, and reaches a thick arm to grab Captain Dosari. A deathbed counterattack. The sudden change catches everyone off guard. "Captain, get out of the way," Bask roars, face pale. Even Dosari's reaction is a beat slow. He had not expected the strike had not killed it, though he still had vigilance as an adventurer. Haste, blue flashes, his speed suddenly increased. The ogre's grab toward his waist misses but catches his ankle and squeezes hard. Bone shatters with a sharp crack and Dosari screams. "Captain." Bask's face goes white. At the same time, the Rand brothers fighting the other ogre instinctively falter at the scream. Their tight coordination breaks. Lure is sent flying by a heavy kick. Already at a disadvantage, Rand now alone is in greater peril. Bask can only anxiously fire arrows to help the endangered Rand. However, while an ogre's intelligence is low, it is stronger than goblins, and this ogre, seeing its companion blinded, is naturally on guard, shielding eyes with one hand while striking with the other. It looks like Rand will not hold. Facing this, although I look serious, I have no intention of stepping forward. With a powerhouse present, I do not need to take risks. Grandmother, Enfiaria on the carriage with pale face looks at Lizzie. With this level of skill they still intend to promote to gold rank, Lizzie speaks expressionlessly, but still raises her finger and a brilliant blue-white light blossoms. Lightning bolt. Energy of terrifying power condenses into a bolt of blue lightning shooting straight forward. The bolt first severs the arm of the ogre clutching Dosari's ankle, then blasts toward the other ogre without losing momentum. As blue light dissipates, a huge charred hole appears in the other ogre's chest. Its entire body charred black, it tilts backward and falls flat with a dull thud. A scorched scent drifts. The two ogres who had driven Rock into a corner are easily defeated by a single lightning bolt. The atmosphere becomes quiet. Even Dosari, who had been howling, falls silent. My panel shows Tier 3 Magic Lightning Bolt discovered. Requires Basic Mage class. Rank requirement level 15 to 21. Current conditions not met. Basic Mage could be converted through Genius, but I clearly do not meet the rank requirement yet. What a pity. The ogres they could not defeat had been easily dealt with by their client. Those capable of Tier 3 magic equate to Platinum rank or Mithril rank adventurers, while Rock struggles even to reach Gold. After a brief silence, I am first to break it, hurrying toward Dosari. I see his crushed ankle and crouch, telling him I will remove the ogre's hand. He nods subconsciously, then his face turns flushed. Unclear whether from pain of prying or some other reason. I pry the rough yellow ogre hand off and toss it aside, then look at his lower leg, completely crushed in a twisted shape, comminuted fracture. In my previous life, basically permanent disability, but here serious, not insurmountable since even resurrection magic exists. Light healing. White light envelops the leg. Under healing magic, the flattened leg slowly puffs as if inflated, twisted shape gradually repaired. The leg, which had lost sensation, begins throbbing again with intense pain, causing Dosari to gasp but hold back screams. As the light fades, the unrecognizable leg can vaguely be seen in original shape. I cast light healing once more. By the end, Dosari's lower leg appears returned. I tell him on the surface it is fine, but the bone inside is comminuted fracture. 2 spells only perform simple repairs. A full recovery will take a few more spells once mana recovers. Rock had treated me quite well. I will not be stingy. Dosari is drenched in sweat, lips pale, the pain during restoration clearly intense. Thank you, Tang. No need to be polite. Bask arrives supporting the injured Rand brothers, sighs relief at the captain, and glances at me with gratitude. I ask if the two are all right. Don't worry, we won't die, Lure grins with pale face. No obvious injuries, but since Bask supports him, internal injuries. He had been kicked away. A few broken ribs, Rand says, trace of blood at corner of mouth, but won't die. I tell them I'll heal them once mana recovers. Rand laughs good. Bask's ears twitch and he turns toward the ogre with severed arm, asking if it is still alive. Rock expressions cold. My eyes light up, and before Rock can act, I step to the ogre. I swing my short sword following the wound left by the arrow in the eye, thrusting into the brain and giving a sharp twist. The ogre, with only one breath left, loses all signs of life. The clean, decisive action surprised Rock. Perhaps I didn't notice that a certain ruthlessness has crept into my movements. Gain 300 experience. Surprise crosses my eyes. So much. It directly levels me up. Combined with previous experience, my rank is now 5. Are you all right? Enfiaria jumps down and runs over with worried face. Rock instinctively look at each other, then turned to Enfiaria respectfully. Don't worry, we definitely won't delay the rest of the journey. Dosari quickly pushes up to stand on one leg. That's not what I meant. Enfiaria waves and tries to say more, then sees Rock looking behind him with awe. You all should take a break and reorganize. Lizzie walks over, hands behind back, blank expression. Yes, milady. Dosari speaks solemnly, though one-legged posture comical. A magic chanter capable of tier 3 is not someone a party like theirs can afford to offend, and she had just saved their lives. The other 3 rock lower heads red-faced. As adventurers, being saved by their client is embarrassing. They had not expected someone with such strength to hire an adventurer party for an escort, or perhaps only intended to hire labor from the start. Lizzie ignores Rock and looks toward where goblins and ogres appeared, the great forest of Tob south of Angelic Mountain Range. Vast and dangerous, E-Rantel right on its edge. It seems it is time to cull monsters again, Lizzie mutters. Goblins reproduce quickly, combined with beasts and other monsters they venture out almost every year. The E-Rantel Adventurers Guild always has culling quests posted. Lizzie looks away and turns back toward the carriage, saying without looking back that we leave in 1 hour. The rock members quickly respond, bodies relaxing. Now that they know Lizzie is a magic chanter who can use 3rd-tier magic, they naturally feel a sense of pressure. Captain Dosari, may I take a look at your injuries? Enfiaria asks with a look of anticipation. Of course, Dosari startled and nods. To the side, the Rand brothers sit on the ground with support, and Bask quickly opens his backpack and takes out 3 bottles of blue recovery potion. He hands them around. Watching the 3 gulp down recovery potions with pained expressions, Bask shrugs helplessly. Although the effect of recovery potions is far inferior to healing magic, they can stabilize injuries and provide slow recovery. He is the only one still at full combat strength, so he gets up and walks toward the previous battlefield, cuts off all the ears of the 10 goblins and 2 ogres, and places them in the leather pouch at his waist. These are proof of monsters killed and can be exchanged for money at the Adventurers Guild. After examining Dosari's lower leg, Enfiaria's bright blue eyes flicker with curiosity and contemplation. What's wrong? I noticed the change in his expression. Captain Dosari becomes nervous since recovery affects his future career as adventurer. Such a heavy injury, yet skin and muscle have recovered while the bone inside has not. Enfiaria looks up at me excitedly and says, as expected, there is a difference compared to how recovery potions heal. He quickly runs to the carriage saying, wait for me. Was there a difference between healing magic and recovery potions? A thoughtful expression crosses my face. In a game, there probably would not be since both restore HP, but here there might. The recovery potions in this other world are also significantly different from those in Yggdrasil. Enfiaria runs back with a bundle of herbs. I subconsciously glance at Lizzie in the carriage. She does not seem to care. Perhaps in her eyes, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Enfiaria mentioned he has studied recovery potions for years but never practiced. With Rock injured, this is a rare chance. Enfiaria sets the bundle aside, picks out several herbs and says pharmacology in a low voice. Pale green energy emerges enveloping the herbs, decomposing them into granular powder. He repeats this for several other herbs and skillfully mixes them in specific proportions. About 10 minutes. Tang, can you help? He looks up. Sure. I had considered pharmacist and alchemist before. I will not refuse. Following his instructions, I bring the ceramic jar I had been using as a kettle. Pour the water inside, he says, holding the medicinal powders. I pour, and Enfiaria adds all his powders. Alchemy, he picks up the jar and shakes lightly while faint light emanates from his hands. Under our watchful eyes, the liquid inside gradually turns into a pale green turbid solution. This is a recovery potion. Dosari widens his eyes with shock. He believes few people aside from pharmacists can witness this. No, this isn't a recovery potion. Enfiaria shakes his head seriously. This can only be called an alchemical solution with healing effects. To make a complete recovery potion, the process is much more complicated. Moreover, if left too long, the solution will spoil, becoming unusable and even slightly toxic. Only made and used on the spot. Captain Dosari, drink it. An alchemical solution that alleviates pain with slight healing. He hands the jar with a bright smile. Dosari and the Rand brothers' breathing becomes ragged, pained expressions returning. If they had known, they would not have drunk the recovery potions. Enfiaria makes more and hands to the Rand brothers. After finishing, he shows clear fatigue. 3 portions of alchemical solution are quite a burden. What's wrong, Tang? Enfiaria wipes sweat from his forehead and notices me staring blankly. My attention is focused on the panel. The 2 skills he performed, pharmacology and alchemy, triggered a reaction. I spend 2 skill points to learn them. The panel updates. HP 53 at 4%, physical attack 53, physical defense 13, agility 53, magic attack 13, magic defense 13, comprehensive resistance 0, special 0, total 16%. Ability sheet, total rank 5, EXP 100 to 400. Base class Genius 1 Warrior Priestess, Priest Pharmacist Alchemist, Mid-tier Sword Saint 4, Skill Point 7, Passive Item Box plus Slashing Boost, 4% Active Warrior Instant Reflex 4-fold Slash of Light, Rapid Slash plus Magic Cure Light Wounds, Tier 1 plus Class Skills Pharmacology Alchemy. The experience plus the Ogre kill raised my rank by 3, total 5. Pharmacology costs 1 mana, processes herbs into powders and granules, enhancing herb effects based on pharmacist rank. Alchemy costs 1 mana, produces alchemy solutions and materials of various effects based on ingredients used in alchemist rank. I look at the new row of job skills feeling clarity. Production skills belong to job skills, similar to special classes. I invest all 3 gained levels into Sword Saint, the only middle tier I have mastered that increases base attributes. This level up process is much like Yggdrasil, where players can freely allocate gained levels. In the real world though, those who want to level a warrior class must constantly hone martial skills and train, while magic class levelers must study, read magic books, and meditate. To level a class, one must learn the abilities associated. Hearing Faria's inquiry, I look away from the panel pretending to snap out of it and say I was a bit surprised. My first time seeing potions made this way. It's nothing, I'm still not very good at it. Enfiaria says modestly, then looks at me with excitement. That compared to recovery potions, healing magic is even more impressive. Recovery potions rely on herbs to treat injuries. Whether low quality or high grade, they only speed up wound recovery. I show a look of interest and begin discussing healing potions with Enfiaria in a low voice. He does not shy away. Instead, he is very happy to exchange ideas. As grandson of E-Rantel's best pharmacist, he will be known as Genius Pharmacist in the future. Even though it is not 4 years later yet, and Faria's insights into recovery potions already surpass most pharmacists in this world. In Yggdrasil, the conditions for a player to win a battle against another player ultimately come down to 4 things: information, rank, equipment, resources. Information first, importance going without saying. The battle between the Bone King and Shalter demonstrated the advantage of information to the absolute limit. Shalter was an NPC specialized in combat with a class build countering undead, yet the Bone King used info advantage to scheme her to death and put on a show in front of other floor guardians. Of course, if it had been a chance encounter, Shalter would have most likely won. As for rank and equipment, self-explanatory. In terms of rank, I can use player to reach level 100, but currently have no way to deal with equipment. With the level of technology here, it is impossible to create divine class equipment, and the only existing divine class are the legacies of the 6 great gods and the 8 desires kings. Incredibly difficult to obtain. As for resources, consumable items like recovery potions, magic scrolls, crystals, gems, ornaments, and various tools. I have no way to compare to the entire Great Tomb of Nazarick. The reason I am now constantly discussing recovery potions within Faria is that I want to produce them myself. After resting, everyone sets off again. Bask carries Captain Dosari on his back. The Rand brothers can walk on their own after potions and alchemy solutions. And Faria continuously prepares various medicinal powders and alchemy solutions to speed up Rock's recovery while using the recovery progress to understand effectiveness. Meanwhile, I wait for mana to recover and use healing magic to treat Dosari's comminuted fracture. For a time, Rock had instead become a burden. 2 days later, a massive city appears. E-Rantel. With 3 layers of thick city walls, the border city looks more like a military fortress. Or rather, as the central city at the borders of Riestasaiz, Baharuth, and the slain theocracy, it was originally built to fortress specifications. Since entering border regions, we haven't encountered many people, perhaps because we took a shortcut. Now close to E-Rantel, the number of merchant caravans and adventurers increases significantly. Lizzie drives the carriage to the city gate. Soldiers step forward to stop them for inspection, but seeing Lizzie quickly show respectful expressions. So it is Master Barrere, let them through. As a border city, anyone arriving needs inspection to guard against infiltrators, primarily from Baharuth. Lizzie nods slightly and flicks her whip. The carriage rolls into the city. Rock and I following are also allowed through without inspection, though each charge an entry fee of 2 copper coins. E-Rantel charges an entry fee. Aside from port cities in the capital, it is the most prosperous city for trade. Due to proximity to Tob Forest and Kaz Plains, 2 dangerous areas, there is a large number of adventurers and mercenaries. Upon entering, the first thing is a large number of carriages preparing to enter or leave. I can clearly feel that the proportion of adventurers is very high, something I did not even feel back in the royal capital. Compared to the faint oppression and decay I felt in the capital, my first impression of E-Rantel is that the air itself radiates vitality. After entering E-Rantel, the escort mission for Rock is considered complete. Naturally, the next step is to head to the local Adventurers Guild to submit the request and collect reward. However, under my healing magic, Dosari is fully recovered. He exchanges glances with the rest of the team. With shame on their faces, they quickly approach the carriage. Lizzie Barrere-sama, Dosari bows deeply and thanks her for looking after them along the way, saying they were not of much help, so they will not be accepting the commission fee. If she had not dealt with the ogres, the entire squad would likely have died. Lizzie gives Dosari a flat look. For the first time, a smile appears on her wrinkled face toward Rock. Fine, I understand. Saving a sum of money makes Lizzie happy. Dosari thanks Enfia on the carriage once more before retreating. Tang, remember to come find me, and Enfia waves as the carriage departs. My intentional interactions have led him to consider me a good friend. I will, I smile and wave back, though my gaze remains very calm. To be honest, I am genuinely grateful to Enfiaria. I had not only obtained genius from him, but also pharmacist and alchemist. Precisely because of this, the longer I stay in contact, the more likely he might leak information about me in the future. If that arose, my palm subconsciously rests on the short sword hanging at my waist, lightly pressing the hilt. A moment later, the cold touch makes me snap back. Was I under too much pressure? I exhale and turn to Rock, saying I should take my leave as well. It's thanks to you that we made it this far, Tang. If you ever need anything, just say the word. The elder twin Rand pats his chest frankly. I quickly wave that I should be saying thank you, that I learned a lot of experience from all of them. Take this. Dosari pulls a black cloth pouch from his tunic, making a metallic clinking sound, and shoves it into my hand. Before I can react, feeling familiar weight inside, I know it contains gold coins. I am confused, and raise my hand to push back. I don't have much money on me, so don't look down on it for being small, and don't be polite, Dosari says with serious expression, while lifting his leg and stomping firmly. If it weren't for me, his leg would probably be ruined. Given the damage when the ogre crushed the leg, recovery potions would have been useless. Out in the wild, he did not know how far from the nearest city, and even if they had rushed to find a faith magic chanter who could use healing magic, by then, even if the leg recovered, there would have been permanent side effects. He felt he would have had to say goodbye to adventuring. Seeing his non-negotiable attitude, I fall silent and stop refusing. Fine, then I'll accept it. I nod to Rock and turn to leave. Watching me disappear into the crowd, Dosari's frank expression turns into pain for his wallet and bitterness. What a shame. We've taken a total loss in this commission, Bass complains. Rand and Lure sigh simultaneously. They had maintained a friendly attitude to invite me to join after the commission. Just as they reached E-Rantel, that incident happened. Not only were they nearly wiped out, they were saved by me. Under these circumstances, they were too embarrassed to ask. Why are your heads hanging low? Even though we didn't recruit Tang, we're acquainted now. There will always be a chance in the future. Keep working hard and strive for gold rank as soon as possible. Dosari slaps his cheeks, retaining cheerful smile. Yes, Captain. Rand and the others follow suit with grins. On the other side, the barrier grandmother and grandson are leaving in their carriage. Lizzie glances at Enfiaria, who looks dejected after parting, and shakes her head imperceptibly. Due to Nefaria's personality, he has never had many friends. That kid Tang looks slightly older. Peers, plus a faith magic chanter with talent. It wouldn't be bad for them to be friends, however. Enfiaria, Lizzie says calmly while driving. Grandmother, in the future, unless necessary, try to have as little contact with that kid Tang as possible. Enfiaria, startled, tries to speak. I know what you want to say, but this old woman has a decent eye for people. I wouldn't lead you astray. That boy seems gentle and easy to get along with, but in reality it's quite the opposite. That boy likely has a barrier between himself and outsiders deep in his heart. The friendly face he puts on for you is probably an act. Combined with wariness toward outsiders, someone like that either has a complicated background or is involved in serious trouble. Enfiaria straightens, cheeks flushing, trying to argue, but Lizzie sighs and flicks the whip sharply against the horse, cutting him off. Nefaria, did you notice the attitude of the Rock squad after I dealt with those two ogres? Nefaria is stunned. He noticed, of course, Rock was extremely respectful toward grandmother. He is no fool. He knows she isn't talking about Rock's attitude, but mine. He recalls my respect. I had also been very respectful. Only, recalling now, he feels my respect was somehow different from Rock's, though he cannot put a finger on it. Poor acting. He doesn't think much of this old woman at all deep down, Lizzie says flatly, and Faria opens his mouth but remains silent. The 4th year before the new calendar, Midwind Moon, May 30th. Following the flow of people, I walk along the main road. The flagstone path has become somewhat sunken in places, likely due to the large number walking on it. The ground is still very clean, with only faint traces of moss and crevices along the edges. Surrounding well-arranged building complexes are predominantly light-colored with dark European-style roofs. I head toward the Adventurers Guild in E-Rantel. I need to find a place to rest properly first. I left the capital on May 17th, and 13 days have been spent on the road. Leveling has to be put on the agenda. The Great Forest of Tob and the Katse Plains are the two important leveling locations in my opinion. I plan to head to Tob first, not only for monsters but because the undead of Katse cannot be effectively harmed by my current methods. I need to prepare supplies, and for this I have to thank Rock for teaching me some wilderness survival skills. I'm not going to the guild now but to a hotel near it. Some high-level adventurer teams don't even need to pay when staying. I have walked for more than 10 consecutive days. In my previous life my legs would have been close to crippled. But now I feel nothing but a bit of fatigue, no blisters. Leveling is probably not just strength, but a significant constitution strengthening. I untie my water skin, take a sip, pass a few blocks, and find a small hotel across the street from the guild. 2 kinds of rooms. A multi-person room for 4 to 6 at 1 copper per person per day. and a 2-person room at 5 copper per person per day. Clearly for adventurer teams. Local commoners don't stay in hotels, unlike adventurers in foreign caravans. I book a 2-person room for myself for 2 days, costing 20 copper, 1 silver, and 7 copper. I push open the wooden brown door creaking, step inside, close it, sweep my gaze. 11 or 12 square meters, 2 wooden beds in the center, with a simple nightstand between, no other furniture, and private toilet. This other world is at a medieval level, but due to magic it cannot be treated as fully medieval. In the capital and on E-Rantel's main streets there are things similar to streetlights, magical lamps containing perpetual light. The journey was arduous, but the only thing I find unbearable is going to the toilet. Paper exists, but paper making is backward and output low, and no one wants to improve since zero-tier magic life magic exists. By consuming a little mana, a large amount of paper can be created. Rock was high income, so their living standards were a bit better. I coughed lightly, interrupting the thought. The existence of zero-tier magic was info I heard from Rock. According to Dosari, this magic is only used for convenience in daily life, not specifically learned by most magic casters unless they have personal need. Otherwise, they only purchase corresponding scrolls. This gives me a reminder. My method of acquiring skills is learning them by consuming skill points after others cast. If magic is released using scrolls, could I also learn by consuming skill points? Additionally, the problem of making money. Upcoming purchases require money. Going to Tob, putting other things aside, I at least need a piece of armor, especially weapons. My short sword will probably become dull after killing a few beasts. I cannot afford magical weapons, but must stock a few ordinary swords. Basic prices in this world are not high, but once an item involves magic, prices become frightening. A cup that merely cools costs 150 gold. Weapons with magical effects regardless of strength are worth over 1,000 gold. Ordinary people can never touch these. With my current money, I can only buy a few decent ordinary weapons. During the journey to E-Rantel, I had begun considering money. Asking Enri about making healing potions was with this in mind. But after clarifying things, I knew I could not spend a lot of time collecting herbs and learning. So I also considered zero-tier magic. Fortunately, the money Dosari gave me solved the current predicament. I take out the bag of gold from my item box. 20 gold inside. Adding what I had, I currently have 22 gold, 4 silver, and 4 copper. I place it in the item box, reach out, and rub my temples. Many problems to think about, but next. I walk to a bed and fall backward onto it. I had been sleeping outdoors with nerves tense. Now finally a bed. What I need most now is to recuperate. I turn my head and glance out the window. The sun is strong. By my estimation, it should be just past noon. This hotel is not far from the guild and it is daytime, so I should be able to rest well. I close my eyes. In the evening, a cool breeze blows through the window, and I sit up suddenly, wondering if it was a nightmare as I wipe cold sweat from my forehead and exhale. I dreamt of the Bone King standing right in front of me, his scarlet eyes staring coldly, and I curse under my breath at the memory. The Bone King is a transmigrator, and so am I. The Bone King is a player, and so am I. And I tell myself there is no reason to be afraid of him. I take a deep breath, slap my cheeks to clear my head, and get up to look out the window at a sky that is already darkened. I push the window open and the cool breeze rushes in, dispelling much of my agitated mood, and I note that I hadn't expected to sleep until evening. The small inn is a 2-story European-style building with my room on the 2nd floor, and through the window I see a small alley in the neighboring street. The wooden railings outside look old and not sturdy, and a thief with even a little skill could easily climb to the 2nd floor using the walls on either side. I observe a moment, shake my head and close the window, accepting that a small inn cannot really guard against any thieves anyway. I wash my face and leave the room. On the street, the crowd is noticeably thinner than during the day, only teams of armed adventurers strolling leisurely, and I head first to a clothing store the innkeeper recommended. My clothes have been on me over 10 days and already smell sour, and I need to prepare more outfits for Tob. When I walk out, I am carrying a full package and wearing a black robe that covers my entire body. 3 silver coins spent in total, with the robe itself costing 1 silver and 7 copper, and the rest cheap coarse linen. The reason for the better robe is the Mages Guild visit next, where shabby dress would be inappropriate. Within the kingdom, every major city has branches of the Adventurers Guild and the Mages Guild. But unlike the Mages Guild headquarters in the capital, the branches do little to train magic system spellcasters, and simply send anyone with talent on to the capital, since traditional re-estized customs leave the upper echelons indifferent to the guild and funding is thin. The branches survive instead as places to craft and sell magic items and scrolls. The Mages Guild here is a 3-story building with an unremarkable exterior, and if I hadn't specifically asked a passerby, I wouldn't have guessed. Unlike the bustling Adventurers Guild, it is quite deserted. No guards at the entrance, though probably no one dares to forcibly enter. I approach the dark brown wooden door, and just as I am about to push it, a light jingle sounds from a fist-sized bell hanging above the upper left of the frame, a faint red glow flickering inside it, and the door swings open on its own. I recognize the bell as a magic item and decide it must have functions beyond such a simple one. I step inside and a soft bright light pours through the doorway, making the interior dazzling compared to the plain exterior. The hall is predominantly red and black, The walls paneled in red wood with only the floor painted black, less than 100 square meters of space, which means the building's true area must be partitioned off behind the walls. 6 hanging lamps line each side. A cylindrical chandelier glows softly from the ceiling, and in the evening hour the place is empty except for 2 middle-aged men in robes at the counter, the older one dozing with his chin on his hand, the younger one watching me as I enter. I walk forward softly and tell him I would like to buy some magic scrolls. And I note that scrolls are far cheaper than the 1,000 gold magic items, yet because they are consumables, even slightly wealthy adventurers seldom bother. The younger mage looks me up and down with a lazy tone, introduces himself as Vala, and asks what scrolls I need, and I notice he seems mildly curious about my pure black hair. I bow slightly and ask if there is a list I can browse, and as if he had expected it, Vala pulls a thin booklet from below the counter, places it on the table, and turns his attention elsewhere. I do not mind his attitude and pick up the booklet, only to remember I actually cannot read the language of this world. The introduction lists 0-tier scrolls first, in greater number than I had imagined. Things like ignition, everlasting light, and cleaning, purely life-oriented spells of no offensive use yet dispensable for adventurers, the sort that Rock-mentioned merchant caravans and nobles carry for travel comfort. I search and quickly find the 0-tier paper-making spell, but I do not speak up yet, and keep flipping. The first tier section is shorter but far more practical. Repair to mend damaged objects, scentless to erase one's own scent, floating board to conjure a translucent platform that carries items, and magic arrow to release 3 arrows in attack. Looking through the booklet, I count only 3 offensive scrolls, the rest auxiliary, and when I turn to the last page I find nothing more, and I am briefly stunned at the absence of any second-tier scrolls. If I remember correctly, the scroll makers of this world can manage third-tier work, and within the slain theocracy even the manufacturing technology for 4th-tier scrolls is preserved. So while a 3rd-tier scroll might be a valuable resource, a 2nd-tier scroll should not be. So it is not that none exist, only that they are not sold to the public, or perhaps ordinary buyers don't have the qualifications to purchase them. It seems I have been browsing too long, because Vala has come back to himself and is looking at me with an impatient expression, asking whether I have made up my mind. I move my gaze from the booklet and tell him I have chosen, but that I have one more question to ask. He softens slightly, takes the manual back, and tells me lazily to speak. I ask him about the 2 kinds of paper-making scroll, since I had noticed the unique otherworldly life magic of papermaking exists in both a 0-tier and a 1st-tier form, and that puzzles me. In the game Yggdrasil, the tier of magic was fixed. Level 100 or level 20 made no difference to 1st-tier magic except for the change in magic attack, and even the 3rd-tier fireball, which could swell in power as the caster spent more mana, was still locked at 3rd tier. The low-tier magic nullification of the Bone King and the other floor guardians of Nazarick would simply erase a fireball outright, so in Yggdrasil hunting a level 100 player required at least 8th-tier magic. Vala tells me there is not much difference between the 2 scrolls, only that the paper produced by the 1st-tier papermaking is whiter, finer, and better suited to writing. And as he speaks, his eyes drift across me as if to say it is time I bought something. The moment he says it, a thought blooms in my head that even surprises me, and I suppress it to ponder a moment before telling him I want 1 0-tier paper-making scroll, 1 0-tier heating scroll, 1 1st-tier magic arrow. He nods, gets up, and walks straight into the wall behind the counter where several murals hang, passing through it as if it isn't there. I note to myself that I couldn't tell at all there was a magic barrier worked into the wall. Soon Vala returns with the 4 scrolls and totals it for me. 2 gold for the 0-tier pair, 1 gold and 10 silver for the odorless, 3 gold and 10 silver for the magic arrow, 7 gold and 7 silver in all. My eyelids twitch at the price. Even between 2 1st-tier scrolls, the magic arrow runs nearly 3 times the odorless. I hesitate briefly, then pull out 8 gold and lay it on the table, and Vala glances at me with a flicker of surprise but says nothing, scooping the coins and counting back 6 silver and change. I have 14 gold, 7 silver, and 4 copper left. Not much, but enough for the supplies I still need. I tuck the scrolls and coins away, turn, and leave, and the moment I am out of the Mage's Guild door I slip every scroll into my item box and quicken my pace back to the inn, because I need to test the guess that just lit up in my head. The sun has already set, and the sky is fully dark, and although the plaza has scattered street lamps, they are far apart, just enough to see the road by, and being a border city, the streets at this hour are nearly empty. A figure suddenly steps out of an alley up ahead, playing with a dagger in his hand and pitching his steps heavy on purpose, and I frown and slow my pace, because the moment a man appears in front of me, a second figure has appeared behind. The one ahead steps out of the shadows and calls me little brother, asking in mock friendliness if I would like to buy them a drink, holding a dagger, masked, dressed in black, and the one behind is stopped in the middle of the road and blocked my retreat. I glance at the one behind out of the corner of my eye, and see he is wearing a black robe like mine with the hood pulled up, his face completely lost in the night. I murmur to myself that it appears I am being robbed while I think of a countermeasure, and the dagger wielder shrugs and tells me, no, they only want a drink and to borrow a little money. The silent one behind makes me feel even more danger. I ask aloud how he knew I had money, and under cover of the robe I draw my short sword. I rule out the Mages Guild aloud, since pride alone would keep its people from this kind of ambush. And I just left, and I had only arrived in E-Rantel today. So the conclusion is obvious, and I let out a cold laugh and say they have been watching me from the moment I entered the city. If my guess is right, the moment Dosari handed me the coin pouch as captain of the rock squad, these two saw it, and they probably ambushed lone travelers entering and leaving E-Rantel as a routine. The dagger thief chuckles and calls me a clever boy, then tells me they will not waste any more words and that I can hand over every scroll I just bought, and all my money, and they will spare my life. Otherwise, he wouldn't mind cutting off both legs of a black-haired bastard like me and selling me as a slave, since a black-haired faith caster who can use low-tier healing would be very popular on the slave market. My eyes change at that, because aside from the Rock Squad, only the barrier grandparents knew I could heal, and neither has a reason to leak it. The Rock Squad has professional ethics, the barriers would not betray me, and an accidental slip from a silver rank party is unlikely, so I think it over and realize my healing was also seen by many at the Royal Capital Adventurers Guild when I cast it. The thief's words made it clear they want more than money. They want me as a slave, and I name it out loud, 8 fingers. The thief's hands pause on the dagger. The 2 words 8 fingers leave my mouth, and the air falls silent. The black-robed man at my back tells the front, one in a low voice, that he had said before to stop wasting breath, and the rogue answers that he hadn't said anything, gripping the dagger in a reverse hold with a cold gaze. From their brief exchange, I know I guessed right. Their real prize is me, not my coins. 8 Fingers is an underground organization with 8 criminal branches whose influence reaches across nearly the whole Reestize kingdom, and behind them there are even faint threads of the kingdom's nobility, supported by the kingdom's failure to ban the slave trade and the network of child abduction, slave trafficking, brothels, and bribery that has grown around it. I remember that in a year or two, the Golden Princess Renner will propose the slavery prohibition decree and gut 8 Fingers, one of her most calculated maneuvers. A decree that against all odds passes its tangle of interests, because a princess locked deep in the palace with no faction and no subordinates somehow secured the public's support and then leveraged the post-decree windfall to indirectly pressure the Bharat Empire and the Blood Emperor, fully earning her nickname Monster. The danger here tenses my whole body. My left hand grips my short sword, and my right draws the first-tier magic arrow scroll I just bought from my item box. I speak loudly on purpose, pointing out that we are not far from the Central Plaza and the Adventurers Guild, and asking whether they aren't afraid I will shout and bring everyone running. But the low voice behind me tells me to shout as loud as I want, that nothing here will be heard. My heart tightens. I glance back and see the man behind me holding a small wand about 10 centimeters long, like a stubby staff. At almost the same instant, information surfaces on my status panel. Skill silence discovered. Requirement base mage type class rank 8 through 14. Current conditions not met. I recognize immediately what the black robe is holding. A short wand, a magic item that works like an enhanced spell scroll, where a scroll is one use, and a short wand carries multiple uses of the same spell. In Yggdrasil, short wands were better cost performance than scrolls, their only weakness a class restriction, since a Holy Light wand could only be used by a Faith caster and a Fireball wand only by an Arcane caster, while scrolls had no such restriction. Some very high-level short wands could ignore the restriction too, and in this other world a short wand's price was far above a scroll's, because it counted as a true magic item. So the black robe behind me is an arcane caster, and between a rogue and an arcane caster it is obvious which one I have to deal with first. The masked rogue tells me to give up resisting and lunges, gripping his dagger reversed, and when he barks, slay his speed jumps and his outline blurs. I know I have to gamble, so without hesitation I hurl the magic arrow scroll toward him, and it flashes into 3 non-elemental arrows that fly at him in a heartbeat. The status panel says Skill Magic Arrow discovered. Requirement base mage type class rank 1 through 7. Current conditions not met, but my genius class activates. Base class requirements met. Will I spend 1 skill point to learn? I don't even look back to see whether the arrows hit. I turn and charge at the arcane caster, and as I run I confirm the prompt and the skill is mine. First tier magic arrow, cost 5 mana, 3 non-elemental arrows, 1 more arrow per additional mana point up to 10. The arcane caster chuckles that I have chosen the wrong opponent, but I am faster, and before he can finish his incantation of acid, I have already cast magic arrow myself. He looks astonished beneath his hood, asking himself silently how a faith caster also knows arcane magic, but he has no time to think and changes his spell instead to shield wall. A transparent barrier appears in front of him, and my 3 arrows strike it together and the magical energies cancel and dissipate. He snarls that I have provoked him and pulls a magic staff to cast, but my body has already closed the gap, and his face goes pale because he knows a caster has to keep distance from any opponent, and the 15 meters between us shouldn't have been a caster's run. He realizes too late that I am not just a caster, and my short sword comes down in quick slash, and a white light flares from his body and stops the blade with a dull thud but dims immediately at the contact. I recognize the magic item at once, and his hood falls back to show a face barely past 20, smiling that I had not expected this. But before he can celebrate, I grip the hilt reversed and press down with all my weight, and the white light flickers and breaks. The sword tip slashes through his throat, and a great burst of blood splatters across me, and the panel grants me 350 experience. I curse him as an idiot in my head, because he had a defensive magic item and chose to gloat instead of casting, watched his own shield dim under one strike, and let an enemy close on him with no melee experience to fall back on. A cold roar comes from behind. The rogue is charged through the magic arrow barrage, and reached me, his footsteps silent the whole way, whether by a class ability or a skill I can't tell. I twist around just in time to see the dark purple glow of his dagger already at my eyes. Another magic weapon. The blades collide with a piercing metallic ring. The rogue's eyes show astonishment, and he falls back a few steps watching me with new uncertainty. I look down at my short sword and see the crack and notch left by the clash, and even so the tension on my face begins to ease. I tell him almost in surprise that I have realized he and his partner are weaker than me, and a strange look settles on my face as I look up at him. That you are weaker than me, said with a hint of surprise inside the unexpectedness, lands on the rogue's ears, and makes him seethe with rage and uncertainty at once. There is something wrong with this black-haired kid. The man's silent thought reads on his face, because despite being a caster, I am not the slightest bit weaker than him physically, and my attack was blocked so easily. I stamp the ground and rush him, no time left for idle talk, and he barks that I am courting death, reaches for his waist, and hurls a small dagger straight at me. The whistle of the cut air rings out. I track the dagger easily and knock it down with my short sword, but my forward momentum slows for it. He calls stealth and his body blurs in the already dark night as if he is merging into the darkness, and I tense for the strike, only to see him turn and run instead. I will not let him escape. The thought flashes through me at once and I throw out a hand and call magic arrow. 3 arrows form in midair and rush him, and the noise from behind forces the running rogue to stop and roll to one side. I catch up in that gap and call fourfold slash of light. The short sword splits into 4 afterimages and stabs at him. 4 blossoms of blood open on his chest and he lets out a shrill scream, but silence still hangs over us, and the scream can't travel. His eyes go bloodshot as he lies in his own blood, and he chokes out that this is impossible, that it should have been Gazef, but before he can finish the sentence, the life goes out of him, and the panel grants me 380 experience. I breathe heavily for a moment, look at the corpse and the blood on my blade, and fall silent. I have killed 2 people in one stretch, and that is something I had never imagined happening so soon, even though I had always known killing would come. I check inside myself for disgust and find none, look for guilt and find none, only a strange naturalness, and I murmur softly that this is a terrible and hateful world. I scan the surrounding streets and confirm that no one came near during any of it. The 2 had picked their spot well. I wipe the blood from my cheek and store both corpses in my item box, even pulling up the blood-stained floor tiles and storing them too, since the item box is essentially a spatial backpack with no real restriction except that it cannot hold living things. I clean the scene and head back toward the inn, ducking into a small alley to swap my blood-soaked clothes for a clean set. Glad I had been cautious enough to buy a stock of ordinary clothing. The innkeeper is a plump, middle-aged woman named Melisi with freckles across her cheeks. She calls out that the guest is back, and I nod politely with a small smile and head upstairs. And behind me I hear her yawn and mutter what a polite young man. The moment my door closes, my face goes slack with exhaustion. Since with only 13 mana points and 2 magic arrows already burned through, I can't cast again. And if I had let that rogue escape, I would have been in serious trouble. Fourfold slash of light finished the fight, and using it for the first time taught me what the cost of concentration really is. More like a drain on personal energy. The body's feeling after sprinting 200 meters. Not exhausting, but tangible. More importantly, the fight has given me a clearer measure of my own strength. The arcane caster used the 2nd tier shield wall, so he was clearly above rank 7 though not by much, and the rogue should have been at a similar level. By the math, I am only rank 5, and a pincer from those 2 should have crushed me even with the element of surprise. But setting aside that the mage failed to use his advantages, the rogue was actually slower and weaker than me, which means my base stats are higher than a rank 7 human of this world. Since Genius itself doesn't raise base stats, the increase comes from all the experience I poured into the middle tier class Sword Saint, and unlike a player, I can't rely on convenient class abilities for free. Most natives can only level base classes at all, as uncertain. Recalling physical attack 53 and agility 53, I conclude my base stats now exceed the normal rank 7 human threshold. I pull the spoils onto the bed, a dark brown magic staff, a translucent white necklace, a short wand, and a dagger with a faint purple shimmer. 4 magic items, and beyond these the 2 carried not a copper coin or anything that could identify them. Whether that is an 8 fingers rule or merely habit when hunting prey, I can't say, but if it is the rule, then 8 fingers is more frightening than the anime ever showed. I sigh that without item appraisal magic I cannot read these items' specific effects, though I can at least sense that the silent short wand still has mana fluctuation, and uses remaining. Plenty of casters know item appraisal, but bringing magic items to be appraised the same evening I deal with 8 fingers people would draw their attention straight back to me, and they are very vengeful, so I decide a Mage's Guild visit must wait until tomorrow. I store the 4 items again, take out the 3 remaining scrolls, papermaking, heat up, and odorless. tear each in turn, and spend skill points to learn them. The 3 are auxiliary spells and won't blow up like Magic Arrow. Odorless will clear my own scent for the forest. Paper making goes without saying, and heat up I bought on a last minute hunch I want to test. Useful in any case for heating food and water in the wild without a giveaway fire. An adventurer's essential. After mastering the new scrolls, I check my panel. Innate ability player. Overall level 5, experience 830 over 400. Base class Genius 1 with the Warrior Priest, Potion Maker, Alchemist, Mage, and Thief slots. Middle tier class Sword Saint 4, 3 skill points. Passive item box and slash enhancement at 4%. Warrior actives instant reflex. Fourfold slash of light. Quick slash, and stealth. Magic actives paper making and heating at 0 tier, and light wound healing, magic arrow, and scentless at 1st tier, professional skills potion making and alchemy. Killing the 2 8 fingers men gave me a large block of experience, and I burned it to push Sword Saint up to 5, bringing me to Genius 1 plus Sword Saint 5 at overall level 6. I had picked up stealth from the rogue, and also unlocked the basic thief profession in the bargain, with stealth costing nothing on a 1-minute cooldown, reducing my presence in darkness, and adding 10% agility for 30 seconds. Paper making now shows an upward arrow next to it, as does heating, and the new descriptions show paper making at 0 tier creates 1,000 sheets of low-quality paper per 1 mana. With 500 more per additional point and no upper limit, heating at 0 tier heats a touched object to 100 degrees within 1 minute, and my eyes catch on those arrows. This is exactly what I had been guessing. My body tenses. When I was paging through the booklet at the Mages Guild, I had noticed that paper making exists at both 0 tier and 1st tier, which was strange because in Yggdrasil, the tier system was strictly fixed, yet life magic created independently by people of this world can climb tiers. That alone is why I bought both paper making and heating, to verify the theory. I think upgrade at the 2 0 tier spells 1 skill point each, and they both change. Paper making at 1st tier now costs 5 mana, produces 800 sheets of high quality paper with 400 more per additional point and no limit. Heating at 1st tier costs 5 mana, heats a touched object to 150 degrees within 1 minute. The upgrades work as predicted, the arrows are gone afterward, and while I am pleased I also frown, because the change between 0 and 1st tier here isn't huge. By the standard learning levels, 1st tier covers ranks 1 through 7, and 2nd tier covers ranks 8 through 14, so the cap must be tied to my caster level, which is still too low. I wonder whether continued upgrades could push these auxiliary spells toward 10th tier, and even if they could, whether such life spells reworked through tier ladders would actually carry 10th tier power, and whether spending skill points to climb them is worth it given how few skill points I have. These are auxiliary spells by design, every choice has to be weighed. But excitement still leaks through my caution, because there are almost no natives of this world who can use 10th tier magic, and a player can't normally absorb 10th tier magic at all, since no one uses it for them to learn from, and there is no intelligence on such a path in the Great Tomb's lore either. I order my thoughts, rub my temples, and lie back on the bed, telling myself most of these ideas can be experimented with later. What matters most right now is to keep raising my level, and not to put the cart before the horse. I tell myself to sleep and let the excitement settle. The next morning at dawn I am already up, leaving the inn to buy food and essential supplies. With the item box's spacious storage, I don't have to worry about spoilage. I spend 2 gold on nearly a month's worth of food, splitting the buying across different shops so the volume doesn't draw attention, and the food alone eats my whole morning. After a quick lunch, I move to weapons, since my short sword has cracks and chips and is finished, and I buy 10 ordinary iron swords at 1 silver each, and a set of light soft armor for 1 gold. Next, I return to the Mages Guild, and because they don't sell 2nd tier scrolls openly, I have to reveal myself as a faith caster, and only then do I get an item appraisal scroll for 3 gold, 2nd tier in name but priced like a 1st tier offensive scroll, because it is neither auxiliary nor combat magic. Then to the Adventurers Guild for intelligence on the Tob Forest, which costs another 2 gold. A full day of prep has cost me 8 gold and left me 6 gold, 7 silver. 2 days pass in a blink, and on the first day of the lower wind moon, I leave E-Rantel after 2 days of rest, robed in black with an iron sword at my left hip and a water skin at my right, heading north. The Tob Forest is a vast primeval jungle wrapped around the Angelisia Mountains, full of dangerous magic beasts and demi-human tribes, one of humanity's forbidden zones where even top adventurers only dare touch the outer fringes. After leaving E-Rantel in the early morning, I follow the rough map and intelligence from the Adventurers Guild northwest toward the kingdom's frontier, near the Great Forest of Tob, where a village called Carney Village sits. The village is a border settlement of nearly a century's standing, but its long history has not lifted it out of poverty, and in the kingdom it is unremarkable to the point of being ignored, though in the anime it is a hub for many plotlines that converge through it, rather than originating from it. A wah-wah cry interrupts my thoughts. A goblin springs from the bushes on a deserted hillside. I draw my iron sword, sidestep its lunge, and slice it in half in the same motion, gaining 30 experience as it falls. I expressionlessly flick the green blood off the blade, scan the surroundings, and see 4 more goblins emerge, and I call magic arrow, then spend an extra mana to pull 4 arrows from the air, firing 1 at each. 4 blossoms of green blood bloom and 4 notifications stack up on my panel for roughly 30 experience each. And I note that the gain is about the same as a wild beast, and I should hit the next rank by the time I reach Carney Village, since the early stages level fastest. I step over and slice the ears off each goblin to sell at the Adventurers Guild later, since that's decent income. I encounter several more waves on the way, not only goblins but small magic beasts too, and finally as evening falls I reach a small village ringed by wooden fences with cooking smoke rising. The fences would be useless against forest monsters, yet Carney Village survives unbroken despite sitting right on the edge of the Tob Forest. An interesting fact in itself. Walking in, my perception has been the sharpest of anyone, and I noticed that after leaving E-Rantel the monsters and goblins increased steadily, but as I approached Carney Village their numbers actually dropped. And the reason is the 3 great monsters known as the rulers of the forest within the Tob. The ruler of the south is the great demonic beast and forest sage king Hamsuk. The ruler of the east is the giant Trollgu. The ruler of the west is the demon snake Nagaririarius Sphenos. And these 3 together rule the Tob. Carney Village happens to fall within Hamsuk's territory, which is why monsters do not attack it. All 3 rulers sit around level 30, with Hamsuke slightly higher, all firmly inside the hero realm in human terms, and even a human hero would have almost no chance against one of them in a fair fight, that being the innate advantage of demi-humans and xenomorphs. I shift my gaze from the village gate to the primeval jungle beyond. The dense canopy blocks any deeper view, yet my eyes settle in grave wariness, because the truly terrifying thing in the Tob isn't the 3 rulers, but a presence at the very deepest part, one of the monsters that descended on this world 200 years ago during the era of the 13 heroes. The Demon Tree, level 85, not destroyed back then, only sealed at the forest's heart. When the anime plot begins, the real reason Shaltir ran into the slain theocracy's strongest scripture, the Black Scripture, carrying the world-class item Downfall of Castle and Country, wasn't simply Shaltir's bad luck. The Black Scripture had mobilized the world-class item because the Demon Tree's seal had begun to loosen, intending to break it and use Downfall of Castle and Country to control the tree, only to encounter Shaltir instead and trigger the nonsensical battle between the two. The anime gave the matter a single brushstroke, but the light novel went further. The Black Scripture took heavy losses and the wielder of the world-class item died from Shaltir's deathbed counterattack, before control could lock in, which is why Shaltir ended up acting as a wild mob despite being controlled, entirely because the person using Downfall of Castle and Country had died. 2 middle-aged villagers with pitchforks appear at the gate and demand to know who I am, and I tell them softly that I am a traveler passing through and would like to stay the night, keeping my tone gentle. They glance at each other without dropping their wariness, first checking the road behind me, and only when they see I am alone do they relax slightly and ask me to wait. One runs back into the village and quickly returns with a man in his 40s or 50s with dark weathered skin and gray-brown hair, plainly the village chief. The chief sizes me up, his eyes lingering on my black hair, and asks gruffly whether I am here to stay the night, and when I nod he agrees readily and tells me to come in, without further question. That surprises me, because Carney Village rarely sees outsiders all year except tax officials and autumn herb buyers. The 2 villagers blurt out, "Chief," in surprise, but the chief sighs as he opens the gate and tells them that these past month or 2 are when the monsters and beasts in the forest are most restless. The 2 finally understand, the road here is anything but peaceful, and the fact that this stranger walked it alone shows he is strong enough that their fence wouldn't have held him anyway, so since he hasn't forced his way in, he must mean no harm. Their wariness drops and I follow the chief inside. Inside the village, what meets my eye is desolation. The place isn't large, all the houses are visible at a glance. Perhaps 30 buildings in total, a small portion of the ground covered in clean gravel, and the rest overgrown with weeds, though the varying weed heights suggest someone clears them now and then. Every house is a low single story, a few of the better ones built from stone brick whose grayish-white walls show many years of age. The chief tells me their village is small but there are vacant houses and points to one ahead, saying I can rest and reorganize there if I do not mind, and I thank him as I glance at the building. He chuckles that it's no trouble. The village hasn't had a guest in a long time, and his thick gray-brown beard shakes with his words. As we talk, many curious eyes peer from doorways and windows. Since the village is small enough that any commotion travels instantly, I give a simple thanks and step into the vacant house. Under their watchful gaze. Carney Village is otherwise ordinary and not particularly worth my attention, except for the young girl named Henri, the same girl who later, with the help of an ordinary magic item called the Goblin General's Horn, blew out an entire army, and I strongly suspect she possesses something like an extreme affinity with Goblin's talent, though for now she is just an ordinary girl. The wooden door creaks open on old hinges. The inside is bare. Only a wooden bed, a thin layer of dust on the floor, tattered cobwebs across the ceiling beams and corners, and the bottoms of the boards darker from damp. I hadn't expected fine accommodations in a poor border village. My reason for choosing Carney Village is that it is the closest village to the Tob Forest, and sits inside Hamsuk's territory, so its safety is high. The trip from E-Rantel takes about a day each way, totaling at least 2 days round trip. And although I have already restocked, I need a base to fall back on for the unexpected. An early forest exit or supplies running short. And Carney Village is exactly that. I should have prepared a cleanse scroll, I murmur, looking at the dust and cobwebs and shaking my head. No matter how much I learned from the Rock Squad about adventuring prep, there will always be gaps. I clean the room myself, clear a workable space, then take a basketball-sized ceramic pot from the item box, place it on the ground, drop in pieces of cured meat broken into varying chunks, pour in waterskin water, and tap the pot with a finger as I cast heat up. In under half a minute, the water in the pot is boiling, gradually turning into meat soup that wafts a salty fragrance through the room. And I smile faintly that this magic is at least very convenient for cooking. A minute on, the simple soup is ready. I ladle a bowl, take out some hard black bread, and eat. Even after boiling, the cured meat is heavily salted, but paired with the bread it isn't bad, since cured meat is one of an adventurer's staples, and is usually too salty to eat directly, so it is used for soup or as a salt substitute. And for physical labor adventurers, it is an important way to replace lost salt. The aroma of the soup with its faint saltiness drifts through the window and stirs a small commotion in the village, since Carney Village's main income is wheat farming and gathering medicinal herbs at the forest's edge, and hunting is far too dangerous when the average villager is rank 1. I recall there should be a hunter here with a gorilla base class, but even he is only around rank 2. I check my panel. Genius 1 plus Sword Saint 6 equals composite rank 7. The leftover 8 fingers experience plus the goblins and small magic beasts on the road let me push another rank, and the progress isn't slow. I figure that within a few days I can max Sword Saint and then start raising Genius itself, since Shaltir and Zeshi Zetsume both have the priest class at level 10, and although I'm not sure that it is a strict prerequisite for Valkyrie, matching the level can't hurt. The next day at first light I pack up and leave Carney Village, but before I go, I make a special stop at the chief's place and pay 5 copper for the night, because the people here are simple. The chief tries to refuse, but I press it into his hand. I will very likely return to Carney Village later, and building goodwill in advance is just basic relationship management, and 5 copper is nothing to me. The air outside the Tob Forest carries the scent of foliage and earth and decay, the unique mixture only a jungle gives off. And as I step on thick leaves and moss, every step makes a sha-sha sound like leaves rubbing and crunching. From deep in the jungle, the cries of birds and beasts come at intervals. I keep my iron sword in hand and skirt the outer area, advancing toward the eastern part of the Tob Forest. Of the 3 forest sovereigns, the strongest and worst to face is Forest Sage King Hamsuk, whom my courage strength couldn't even outrun, and her cute appearance in the anime only seemed cute because it was filtered through the Bone King's perspective. In reality, she is a deeply terrifying beast. Ryraius, the demon snake of the west, has high intelligence and is also a caster, equally dangerous, and only the troll, while still powerful, has low intelligence and is a stubborn single-minded warrior whose only methods are super strong recovery and physical attacks. No other tricks. In an accidental encounter, the chance of escape from a troll is clearly higher than from Ryraius or Hamsuk. Tall trees crowd everywhere. Sunlight filters through layers of canopy and lands dappled on the ground. In the jungle I walk east, my steps deep but light. Perhaps because I keep to the very outermost edge, I have encountered no beasts or magic beasts in some time. A faint, almost imperceptible flutter of wings rises from the branches. A thumb-length jade-green caterpillar with a pair of thin wings slides off a leaf and descends slowly toward my head. And just as it reaches the air above me, I cut it in half with an iron sword arc, gaining 1 experience as it falls. A faint fishy smell spreads in the air, and I wonder if it was poisonous. I haven't mastered any detection magic and have to rely on my own judgment. My HP, physical attack, and agility have all reached 73. With 73 points of attack, I can cut down a man-thick tree in 3 full-strength swings. A punch can leave a half-fist indentation in a stump. And agility is harder to measure precisely, but my 5 senses have all sharpened a great deal. With my previous 63 agility, the rogue who was likely above level 8 already felt only normal fast and even slightly slow to me. The Rock Squad is the adventurer group I know best. Their captain Dosari is the strongest among them, and now I sense I should be a touch above him. On top of martial arts, I also have skills in magic. In a head-on fight against the Rock Squad, I'm not entirely confident, but in a sneak attack I have some confidence I could wipe them, though I would also be hurt. From a weakling to having silver-ranked team equivalent strength, I can't help but marvel at the terrifying nature of the player innate ability. The player captain who led the 13 heroes 200 years ago aroused even the Platinum Dragon Lord's apprehension because of his rapid increase in strength. Pressing on, the truly troublesome things in the forest aren't the obvious magic beasts, but the colorful insects, most of them carrying potent venom. And although my agility means a sudden bug attack isn't a real threat, dealing with each one is troublesome, and the experience is in single digits, which slows my progress badly. A branch snaps under my foot with a crisp sound, and in the jungle's chirping insects and rustling wind it should be unremarkable. But I stop and look to my left, telling whatever is hiding that I have finally found decent prey, and asking if this is its territory. At the intersection of a few thick trees, a pure black creature with faint green spots lies motionless among the leaves. I am lucky it is daytime, since at night I would not have seen it at all. I had subtly sensed something off. The outer Tob has had surprisingly few wild beasts on my path, and the only likely reason is that this place belongs to some relatively powerful beast or magic beast. My gaze sweeps the black silhouette in the leaves. Its body length is at least 1 meter, and I narrow my eyes and hold the iron sword level across my chest. The leaves rub like wind. The hidden creature has clearly realized it is found. A red forked tongue flicks from its mouth. The next moment, a black-green figure springs from the foliage like a coiled spring, jaws agape and lunges at me. The black-green scales catch the dappled light with a metallic sheen. I finally identify it as a snake. A giant snake over 6 meters long and as thick as 2 human thighs. Its foul mouth aimed at my head as it snaps down. I swing the iron sword hard at its open mouth, and the blade strikes with a dull thud. Sparks even fly where the black scales meet steel, and I narrow my eyes at how hard it is. The snake hisses in pain. Its 6-meter body twists, and its thick tail whips around from behind, the air screaming as the tail cuts. I press the sword in my right hand against the snake, trying to bite me, grab at the air with my left, draw a second iron sword from the item box, and slash to meet the tail. Another dull impact. The surprising force makes me step back and my left shoulder shifts, but I successfully block the strike. The snake hisses again. With its midsection planted and front and rear pressed at me, it twists relentlessly, plainly trying to coil and crush me with the constricting that snakes are best at. But with my agility, I parry head and tail with a sword in each hand and steadily retreat. The scales are very hard, and combined with the slick body, it is difficult to damage with brute force. My swings glance and bleed off most of their force on contact. What I had taken for a giant beast snake now looks more like a magic beast, since in this other world any creature with unique abilities counts as one. Seeing me unable to penetrate its scales, the snake's dark yellow eyes lose some of their caution. It abandons defense and attacks even harder. The swinging tail is met by my blade again with even greater force this time, and I tell myself that's enough. I have basically figured out its attack pattern. I could escape this thing using my speed alone, but it is an excellent experience package, so I stomp the ground and leap backward fast, putting on the show of trying to flee. As expected, seeing its prey try to escape, the black-green great serpent's weak intelligence cannot read the act. It arches the upper body backward, half uprights itself like a coiled spring, then lunges like a launched projectile straight at me. The opening I have been waiting for. My eyes light up. I grip the iron sword reversed and hurl it like a javelin into the serpent's open mouth. An astonishing impact bursts in the air. The sword pierces the mouth, dragging out a great flow of white viscous fluid and red blood mixed with minced flesh, scattering it across the ground. The serpent's body falls from midair and writhes in pain, hissing, and its thick tail thrashes wildly, smashing the surrounding trees with loud roars. I purse my lips and step back a few paces to watch quietly. Since its scales are hard and slick, I attack from the soft interior. And after 2 or 3 minutes of convulsion, the snake stops moving and lies still. And the panel grants me 150 experience, current experience, 421 over 1,000. A smile rises on my face at the sizable haul, and only then do I walk over, find the iron sword on the ground caked in fluid and blood, and grimace, taking the stiff yellowed paper I had earlier created with a paper-making scroll out of my item box to wipe the blade clean before picking it up. The scales of this serpent should be good for armor, and surveying the 6-meter body I see that aside from the head wound, the body is largely intact. But I am not particularly interested in armor, since with this world's craftsmanship, the best armor that can be made from materials like this would be superior grade. Given the time, I would rather chase down the legacies of the 8 Greek kings or the 6 great gods,